welcome back to the Project Manga Podcast, where we cover One Piece, My Hero Academia, Black Clover, Mashle, Dr. Stone, and Jujutsu Kaisen week to week. Back this week covering Weekly Shonen Jump issue number 7. I'm your host, Knox.
What's up, y'all? It's Kiko.
And Nickums.
And before we get into the discussion tonight, of course, we'd like you to take a look at the description down below. That's going to be where you see us on our individual social media accounts, ways that you can join online communities like Discord, ways you can listen to the Project Manga Podcast wherever you normally get your podcasts, and ways to support the Project Manga Podcast, including our online store and Patreon. But getting into the discussion tonight, I think we have one of the biggest bangers for an entire week in its roster in a long time.
Yeah,
fantastic
definitely.
week.
Yeah. Everything I feel like, as far as individual chapters go, isn't below a 9. Like, for the series, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yep.
super excited to get into it. Should we start?
Yes,
All right.
sir. Let's do it.
Well, let's get in to Jujutsu Kaisen, chapter 135, the Shibuya Incident, part 52. How do we feel?
Sick.
Great.
Super sick.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack in this chapter.
Yeah.
There definitely is. Like, the Yuji technique thing is, we're seeing it in effect, and it's felt like we were going to get information on it, but we really don't know any more than we did. Like I was like, oh man, hell yeah, right away. Like, okay, this is kind of what I've been feeling like is the case. And it's like, oh man, this is gonna like reassure everything I've been saying, and then it's like, no, we didn't really, didn't happen. Didn't get it.
I think the only thing that you get a little deeper than before is more hashing out of like how this thing manifests. Say for Choso, where Choso, he says like, okay, my curse technique lets me directly feel experiences, transformative experiences of my brothers, and somehow Yuji's ability actually like tricked him into thinking that his feelings about Yuji like was this ability in effect or whatever. So like just the depth of how much their memories and their perception is being adjusted and molded and fooled by Yuji's technique. Very interesting.
Yeah. And it was weird because like Choso fully believes Yuji is his brother because of this. And it's like Todo, I never thought actually believed Yuji to be his brother. Just like, Aniki type thing.
Yeah,
right?
I think because it was so ridiculous that it was meant to be seen as a gag at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, this person is not my brother. Like, we couldn't possibly think Todo thought that was for real. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
But now,
at the time,
yeah.
But it's like what does this mean, right? Like with Choso, like it's like, did Yuji's ability actually trick him, or is there some tiny latent connection, that I've been talking about between them? That and it's like with Choso too, like Choso like confirms that Brain-kun is actually Noritoshi Kamo, where there was a little bit of we were a little up in the air on that, because you could say Brain-kun has been around for a while and took Noritoshi Kamo's body, one of many, and he just took Kamo
one of many on the way to
but
he was in a body
doesn't
before, jumped to the next one. It was Noritoshi Kamo, went to the next one after that.
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the case now. It seems like Choso is very sure that this is actually Noritoshi Kamo, which that doesn't mean that it is the case. But it definitely feels like, I mean, it's the best evidence we have so far. I mean, especially with him being also a blood manipulation user who has the Kamo technique. You feel like if anybody is going to know this, it would be Choso. So like, I feel like his assessment is as good as you possibly can get in this scenario. So that's what I'm going to go with until
his mental state is compromised, though.
Sure. I mean, it's only compromised when it comes to Yuji, though, right? Like,
we don't know how far out it goes. You know what I mean? As far as, because I mean, like, if it's a purely like psychological thing, then yes, the only physical attack that's happening is Yuji's memory manipulation, and it affects it in the ways that we've seen it so far. But what does that mean for like the rest of Choso's psyche when contemplating it, when going over it? When, like, it's probably conflicting in a lot of ways that affect his thought processes.
The Yuji thing was so shocking that maybe it has impacted his judgment across the board, right? Like he's just like freaking out.
Really good.
Yeah. Definitely possible. Definitely possible. But
I do agree.
But I like what you're saying.
I feel like it's a strong, possibility that this is actually Noritoshi Kamo. Like, I would say incredibly strong. Like, I believe it's him.
This when you have a blood manipulation ability and you can sense like transformations within your other brothers, like via blood, it just really feels like, I mean, even with memory manipulation here, that like, man, you would think that Choso would be able to rely on the ability to like, but I don't know. Like like Nick, you said, maybe it totally tricks the ability. Maybe it tricks the ability somehow, or maybe not. Maybe Yuji is.
I think it's all interpretation based, right? So like the potency of the memory manipulation is so deep and so big that it's even affecting what Choso believes of his own technique. You know what I mean? I think that's at least what I think it's trying to say here. But
sure. Yeah. So piercing blood, too fast for Uraume, right?
Yeah, man. I love seeing that. It's that effective, even though it feels like Choso's threat level has drastically decreased since the end of his fight with Yuji until we see him now. He's just as effective as he ever was, if not more. If not more,
it looks like that in these panels, but Geto Kamo, whatever we're calling him, says like, hey, you're tired, right? Like it is like, so what if I am? Like, that's not going to stop me from protecting my brother. So like, maybe he isn't at, you wouldn't think he is at his optimal form here.
Right.
But no, not at 100%. I just think it's cool that he's still so on the board and still so prominent.
Yeah.
Even after his mind was broken and we thought he was literally just gone for way longer than this,
Yeah. But that's it's just great to see that, okay, even if he is tired and his abilities maybe are not at 100%, maybe even if they're just at 90%, it's like it's still too fast for Uraume to block, or Uraume's blocking it, but like, wasn't able to dodge, had to block, couldn't dodge, right? And so Yuji was able to dodge though, right? Yuji was able to dodge 100% full power, full piercing blood, though it was very close and he was getting grazed and whatnot, and he, had some just techniques for that. Like he baited him with the jump coming off his foot so he could, boom when he lands. But regardless, Yuji it still feels like Yuji's the most physically adept person on the board right now, which is good, because like when you have Noritoshi Kamo blocking everything like nothing, and I mean maybe he's still the most physically adept, maybe over Yuji.
Yeah, but I would say still, like, physically on the board, I'd say Geto wins here now.
Yeah, sure. But still, regardless, like I don't know, it's good because Yuji, man. Yuji has been wavering, of course, like all over this arc with all sorts of things. And like you first see him with he's just blood covered, and he's confused with Choso, like what he's talking about, and it looks a little like despaiриsh, but it's not. I don't think that's what that was meant there. But regardless, it's like that second page. He's just like, I guess, super confused, but he looks like super fucked up. He's just got blood covered in his face,
very bloody.
But he rips his tattered fucking shirt off and uses the blood on his face to like push back his hair, and just boom, I'm back in it again. Like Yuji just keeps coming back, and it just feels like, man, not that Uraume can't freeze him because of Sukuna, and we'll kind of wait till the end, but like regardless, he is still very much so one of the most, the biggest defense, I guess, the protagonists have at this point,
for sure.
Other than what happens at the end, of course.
And I wanted to. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit about what Choso is doing here, like when he does the piercing blood or whatever. I just think these panels on, like, say, page 5, where he's like redirecting it as we've seen him do before, and like slashes the ground under Geto, who like jumps away. But then because he is like slashed the ground, there's blood underground, and he like manipulates it long range and does like a Gara type thing, like through the ground, like and takes the ground. It's like so sick. Ooh.
So tight. I love
that top right panel on page 6 where he like has the hand motion, like the grip. So sick.
And it's cool. It works because as big of a fight as Yuji versus Choso was, it was only really extremely high diff, I feel like, for Yuji. You know what I mean? Like Yuji was the only one that pulled out all of the stops. Like I feel like Choso had a lot left in the tank, and a lot left that we maybe hadn't seen, you know what I mean? And I don't remember him using a move like this, you know what I mean, beforehand. So it's cool to see that he still has, tricks up his sleeve that we didn't get his entire kit in the last fight. So that's really cool. And then this clash underneath that panel is really, and I feel like mangaka artists, they all have their own way of showing, random punch and kick clashes, you know what I mean? But I feel like it still like gets broken down into like two kind of ways that you can go about it. You can either have it like this, where you see, clashing movements after imaged back to back in one panel, or you can have it like a 7 Deadly Sins or a Dragon Ball where it's just one pose and then a bunch of explosions all over the place. You know what I mean? I much prefer this. Obviously, I don't know anyone who wouldn't, but I think even inside of this style of showing random punching kick, martial arts clashes, I feel like Gege is just in a league of their own with this kind of illustration, in my opinion. But.
For sure. And I didn't know Choso was rocking the Tims until that panel, right? Like, look at him, the little dance move before he's about to, as he charges Geto.
Wait, hold on, where is it?
Yeah, right, that right above the panel you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
that's him.
Those are Doc Martens.
Yeah, I guess they're a little shorter, right? They're like chukkas. They're like the Timberland chukkas, the shorter ones. But that's really cool, because it was like, at first I saw that panel, I'm like, who the fuck is wearing boots out here? Like, this is Japan. Do they even wear boots like this in Japan? Because everybody's got fucking monk clothing on and sandals and shit. It's just like, and Yuji has like his kicks and whatnot. But other than that, like,
you don't really notice shoes like that. In the series, I feel like,
it was a cool little panel to throw in there.
I like that.
But then you see the "don't push yourself, you must be tired," and is that really true? Like, is it because you got only X amount of blood, but don't like the death paintings regen their blood, and that's why he can keep using it like this? But maybe there still is a cap. Maybe there still is.
You're still gonna have stamina even if you have a regenerative healing. Like, your regenerative healing factor has stamina of its own.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, and they're still half human too, right? Like, the death paintings are hybrids, so it's like, it makes sense to still have some human limitations here or there, for him. So that's
I love Panda's dialogue here when he talks to him. I don't know why, but like, Panda very much so reminds me of like Beast from X-Men, and not just because he's an intelligent mind inside of a beast form. We've seen that all over the place even before X-Men, I feel like, but like just his like dialogue, like his reasoning, like his way of thinking is very reminiscent to Hank McCoy too. Like, he sits here, he's like, I'm just asking, but you're not related, right? Because he keeps saying you're his brother, you know what I mean? Like, just to be sure, you know what I mean? No way, he almost killed me earlier. He's like, okay, so that's Choso and Todo now. Are you giving off some kind of weird pheromone? You know what I mean? Like, that panel right there felt very Beast to me. You know what I mean? Which is I love that shit. You know what I mean?
And maybe it has something to do with him being, Principal Yaga's like prized cursed doll, cursed corpse. I think they actually call those cursed corpse. So like, I mean, we know he's a separate sentient entity. That's kind of hard to say, those two words in a row. But he just gets X amount of experience base because Yaga is a top tier Jujutsu sorcerer, presumably. So I mean, but maybe not. I would like to go deeper into Panda's character, because it's like, you're right. Like, when you have this, it's like, he's so like, what is, like, what's really going on here, right? Like, you could just leave it as, I'm just a cursed corpse, right? And I just learn like anybody else. I'm basically a human and who looks like a panda now, like, but there's obviously got to be a lot more to it than that.
I can't wait especially till we get that backstory. Yeah, that's probably the most interesting one out of the not huge mystery bombs that we have left. Like, obviously we want to know everything about Sukuna, obviously we want to know everything about Getu, but like outside of the heavy hitters like that, Panda is probably the question I want answered the most. Udar Ume has ice. Oh, that's so cold. Oh, no pun intended.
And unblockable drumming that was going to happen here. So he, in the Kyoto exchange, when he's using it, it was called like, and there is an ellipses here, so there is something coming after unblockable drumming, like another word, because there was another word I think used but like, it's basically he hits you, and even if you block it, it like reverberates and you still take damage.
Kind of like Ryo. I would assume that this is maybe a soul attack of some kind, since it's saying like unblockable, because like obviously anyone can just, now this either means that I'm just so swole and I'm a gorilla and I'm hitting you with a ton of force, so it's just unblockable, because like, think about blocking a gorilla, I guess maybe it's like that. But I'm thinking, since he has multiple soul cores, that maybe he has a similar situation as Yuji, sharing a vessel with Sukuna, and that was the reason why he was able to damage Mahito, is because he's used to sharing you know, a vessel with multiple souls, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
he's able to see the soul because of that relationship. So maybe Panda is a similar way, and this unblockable is like true damage, you know what I mean, despite what you do physically to stop it.
Yeah.
Well, and I was even asking just because like it looks like he's about to strike the ground here, right? You know, like
sure.
and is it going to be, you know, especially when you think of drumming, right? Like, okay, you got the gorilla boom, you know, like this, of course, but like hitting the ground, you know, it's like, okay, Donkey Kong and Smash, boom, 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 right? Like there's been plenty of other, you know, connections there, but like him hitting the ground here, you know, I mean, I just think that if it's is it going to be something where it's just going to be a big fucking shockwave that just cracks the ground and it's going to be a fucking earthquake, whatever, the ground cracks?
I feel like because
I
it
would
says
hope there would be
unblockable,
more.
it shouldn't just be an attack that is meant to strike the ground.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying is like, is he able with like cursed energy after hitting the ground, like maybe like a Leorio or something where it's like moving through the ground and then coming,
Ooh,
Every time.
I love that.
That'd be super cool,
But everyone looks so shook, like, and it's because of Uraume. Oh wait, no, that's Noritoshi Kamo. That's not Getsu. I thought that was Getsu for some reason, like reacting crazily. So like I was like, what else is really going on here? No, this is everyone that just got iced. Okay.
Yeah.
And the ice is drawn so well.
I love when a mangaka can draw ice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kohei. Now we see, you know, Gege. You know what I'm saying? Like ice is like one of my favorite elements to see in manga.
For sure.
I love seeing when they got stars and shit around, right? You know, because you get it's sparkly, definitely. It's going to, you know, the light's going to go through it or whatnot, and like it's just it's something I think that you could do without, but like it's just a nice little touch, right? And to, you know, confirm that this is ice for me, and not for Geg. Like I can definitely tell that this is ice in here, but like other stories sometimes not so much. Where ice is kind of a hard thing to draw. I think.
It is, and I love the way that it's that the channeling or the activation of the attack is like kind of depicted, because I feel like there's a couple different routes that you can take with ice powers, and that's like sometimes you see where they just like touch something and then ice chunks start building up towards the thing. That's like Todoroki and Geten. You know what I mean? But I like this one where it's like, I'm blowing cold at you, and then when it comes in contact, boom, an explosion of like frozen glaciers. You know what I mean? I love that. I love that.
Toya. It's Toya from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes, Toya. Oh,
ice crystals.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Gotta have Togashi on here somewhere, right?
I love how casual they are. I love like villains talking casually to each other or just to the enemy, while you know the protagonists are trying their hardest to fight them, and obviously exerting all of their energy. You know what I mean? They're not even in a position to where they can even try to have a casual conversation, and they're just swatting things away, talking to each other normally, like, don't kill them, I need a messenger. Geto looks like so unbothered when he says that. You know what I mean? He just turns around and like says it with a straight face. You know, I think that adds to the charisma, you know, of the villains. You know what I mean? Which is one of the biggest, you know, things for me inside of a villain, you know what I mean, is how cool they seem while they're being a piece of shit, you know what I mean?
Yes. And right after this amazing ice attack, now Uraume does reverse curse technique and just immediately heals the damage from Choso from earlier.
Kusakabe's like, dude, these motherfuckers are different, bro. Like, we got this high level of ice right into reverse curse technique. Like, what do we do? I just want to go back to the crib. Like, I want to go home.
Soft. This guy is soft.
Man.
Why even, you know, like,
he's
why
a real one. All of his actions are goat actions, but all of his dialogue is soft. I love that. Like the last time I can't remember that since like Gene Starwind. You know what I mean? Like that's super Gene, you know, feeling.
So man, Uraume obviously is, you know, if an actual human being, which it's not, right? Like this is definitely not like a human being. I wouldn't think, but Uraume, like just with this, I mean, it could be, but I mean,
they are pretty old though.
They know,
and
old. They know Sakuna even personally, like which is much older than Noritoshi Kamo. So
cryogenic stasis.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess that's possible, and that would be really cool to have an actual human somehow.
Oh, because the ice.
Yeah,
sure.
like yo,
ice,
I can't body jump. You know what I'm saying? Like Sukuna, you'll obviously live forever. Like, what am I gonna do?
They did Aang from Avatar, right? Like, I'm just gonna put myself into an ice chunk and ride this out. I'll be back later. Whatever.
But who knows? I mean, reverse curse technique is probably anti-aging technology, or an anti-aging technique anyway.
Sure.
You can assume
Sure.
anyway, at least healing
Shoko's
factors
never
generally
dying
are.
then.
Yeah, yeah, Shoko, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I really like that, because then it's like you have Sukuna, who is now like a full curse, Ume, which would be a human, and then you have like Getu, who is somewhere in between, and it would be cool that all three of these people had different
ways to stay alive
ways
forever.
to get to the future together. It would be pretty cool, definitely.
That'd be super tight.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So what is Utahime preparing, right? Like for this, we have never seen any of her abilities, but I mean,
like a cursed spirit. She's got like a cursed spirit, like a summon or something, right?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Like, what is that thing?
Where are you seeing it?
Oh no, that's
not Yuki Tsukumo. Okay, who are you talking about?
Utahime. They said
Utahime
is preparing something. I would assume. Now, we haven't seen her curse technique at all. When she was about to use it, Gojo saved her, right? Yeah, I think that's what happened in the flashback. What if it's just like time stop, and she just needs a gang of time to prepare it, and they can just bounce.
Uta is song, so it's song princess, right? So it's probably singing of some kind, right? Like, I mean, it might just be sound. We haven't seen sound in Jujutsu. Oh yeah, we have Inumaki.
And Gaku Ganji plays the guitar.
Oh yeah, Gaku Ganji plays the guitar.
Let's see, like if she just has to do a verbal incantation. If it's just singing, then the ability can still be anything, and maybe singing is just the medium that brings the ability forward. In whatever way it manifests.
Definitely
started.
Doesn't have to be sound for sure.
Man, Yuki coming in at the end.
Before we even get there, we got to talk like so. Like Momo looks kind of weak here, right? Like she with her wind scythe. So, but I don't hold it against her.
Like,
me too. Like it's like what has Noritoshi Kamo, the actual kid who goes to Jujutsu Tech, like our present day Kamo, like what has he done? He ain't done shit, and he's supposed to be way above her. Like she's doing way more than him, and he ain't doing shit. Like, and so like who else? There's a couple people who haven't done nothing, right? Like it's and anything that they've tried, it's like Panda. It's like, oh, I'm gonna try to hit the ground, boom, get hit with ice. Like, I mean, none of these kids are doing anything, right? So like I feel like her showing in here is actually really good for her, and does feel like a strong, like sure, like okay, I mean it just gets deflected by Uraume, and Geto just whatever dodges it.
I don't even know if he dodges it. I think he just is like looking at it.
It's just
Uraume
as it goes
the
over.
Whole thing.
That's kind of what I feel like too. Like he's just like looking at it fly by or whatever.
What's so cool about like Jujutsu Kaisen and Hunter x Hunter though is that the abilities are so like you don't get everyone learning a bunch of abilities over the course of the entire series. Everyone has their one or two abilities. You know what I mean? So those abilities have to be effective if they hit you, because it's your ability. You know what I mean? Like, well, what are you there for if your ability doesn't work? You know what I mean? But so like that's one thing that I love about Hunter and Jujutsu Kaisen is that if the ability gets through, if you get your combo off, it will be effective. But obviously, she sends the wind scythe, and they have time to defend against it with their own curse technique. But if this shit were to hit them for real, I feel like it would do significant damage. You know what I mean? Like with Choso's piercing blood, Uraume didn't have time to erect a deflective spell the way that they are with Momo. So they had to block it physically, and they got fucked up. You know what I mean? Like they had to reverse curse. They had to heal and shit after that. You know what I mean? So even though they dealt with it very easily, like I still Momo is still there with everyone else, so she's competent enough. You know what I mean? I just
even if she is like vision, right? Like like her true is reconnaissance, I guess, and her and information is her true purpose. But regardless, like, so I mean with like Tsumuji from Phantom Seer, I mean this is Kame Taichi again, right? Like her using the wind scythe, like riding a scythe, and I mean that's always cool that we're gonna keep kind of using that. Like it made a lot of sense, even though when you originally seen her, she's just kind of like using her broom to like telepathically control it and hit like she hit fucking Nobara in the face with it and stuff. So like, I mean, it's cool that because do you think it's coming out of the broom or do you think it's coming out of her foot? It feels like it's coming out of the broom, right?
Yeah, I think it does look like it's coming out of the broom. Yeah.
She says tool manipulation.
Tool manipulation.
And she's using her foot to like, I don't know, maybe skid on the ground and change her trajectory or whatever. Yeah.
And just to be clear, she definitely is being shown underwhelming here. I feel like on purpose because you want to establish like the hierarchy in some kind of way. I think it's supposed to be clear that Momo isn't as competent or as capable as everyone else on the board. I was just saying it's cool that stories like Jujutsu Kaisen and Hunter x Hunter give you a small amount of abilities to use so that your conflicts are centered around finding a way to make those small amounts of techniques work instead of just getting a new one when you need it, like in other stories, you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Well, and another just small part on this, and we can be done with her, really, is that being that her true, like, main purpose is reconnaissance, and, like, okay, that's very, very valuable, right? Like, that's not, like, you know, it's not a worthless, you know, trait to bring to the fight, obviously. So it's like her being that and then showing her to be, okay, now I'm going to jump in and use moves that, like, you know, to me, it makes her feel a lot more capable, even if this ability doesn't land, because like this isn't her forte. This isn't her strong suit to be in here, you know, fighting these guys anyway, right?
Characters don't have to have like massive, overwhelming W's in order to be shown in, you know, in order to increase their agency, like, or relevance in the series, you know what I mean? Like you can just show something new and it's not effective here, and we already have like newfound appreciation for Momo just because we didn't know she had attacks like this, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So we can go on to the end with Yuki Tsukumo here, and so like Nick was saying, there's some flying spirit thing above her, because it's like, how did she stop Uraume's attack, right? Like, I mean, maybe this thing just blasted the ice cave-in, whatever the hell you're going to call it, icicle rain.
Panel after, like, we're going to die.
That's Yuji closing his eyes. That's Yuji. I'm dead, right? I'm dead. And then he opens his eye. Oh, shit, I'm not dead.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Well, that's fine.
Explanation.
I think Yuki's a curse manipulator as well. I'm subscribed to that idea that she's like a similar class of sorcerer as Geto was.
Yeah,
she's one of the 4 special grades, right?
Yeah.
So she's a special grade.
Yeah, which is a massive situation. 2
super
special
massive
grades head to head. That's pretty heavy, man. Yeah.
Can't say we've ever really had that. I mean, I guess you could say like Gojo and Geto versus Toji was kind of that level of a battle, but that's we haven't had this level of a battle yet, right? Like this feels like your you know, Hokage level battle or whatever.
Sukuna versus Mahoraga was probably in this echelon.
That's a wash. He just give me that, rip that shit off, bro. But like so I got a couple ideas for what her ability can be, even though like we're seeing this flower. So Yuki means snow, right? So like it's very possible that this is an ice fucking flying thing that she constructed out of ice, and why she can counter this, and maybe she's a descendant of Uraume. Yeah.
Oh shit! That's so cool.
Right here. Yeah.
Yep. And Tsukumo, I mean, to like, if a Japanese person just heard Tsukumo on the street, they hear 99, but like it also means pure, holy, like clear, translucent. So like ice, right?
Wow.
Sure.
Ice v ice mirror match.
And then one more thing. Tsukumogami is like Japanese folklore, and it's tools that have spirits in them. So there could be some like tie there with like how, because that would be something different. Like that would be because of this. Maybe it's a cursed tool that she's putting a cursed spirit into this tool somehow.
Sure.
Like and you know, maybe there's some combination of things, which that wouldn't be ice, but that was like, you know, two different ideas on what she could be. But like,
dude, Yuki, I'm really liking that well, the first one you said. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, if your name's gonna be Yuki, it's like you got to use snow, right? Yuki Hime, Yuki Holder, Ice Queen, right? It's But yeah, or Ice Princess. But yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, I really am excited for this fight. Of course, we'll see. Special grade versus special grade. I mean, Kamo is above. So it's like I love the fact though in Jujutsu Kaisen, something being deemed a special grade basically means has no cap, right? Like there's an infinite fucking gap of
potential.
It's just anything we can't classify basically special grade.
It's like
so
Omega classification in X-Men.
yeah. And so it's just because this is special grade v special grade, even if this was actually Geto before he's taken over by Brain-kun, like you still can't just say, okay, this should be an even fight right here. Maybe Yuki gets washed,
Yuki about to. I think this is going to be I don't know, because eventually, obviously the fight either someone's got to win or that people have to run away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And since Geto or Brain, or Noritoshi Kamo has been shown in such a confident light this entire time, I think that a great way to end the conflict would be showing him struggle, get pissed,
take a little damage,
irritated, and take some damage for the first time.
Yeah.
And then, all right, let's get the hell out of here with the prison realm or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I definitely don't think the conflict needs to end with anybody winning on either side, similar to, a My Hero Academia resolution. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But another big thing with this is that Gojo said, are you really going to let this happen to your body, Geto? And Geto starts to take it back and, or tries to or whatever. And then you have Geto inside interfering with Brain-kun's, Kamo's sensory to not notice Momo flying. It's like, oh, no. I think I wasn't going to notice that. So Geto, whatever the fuck, he is already having an internal struggle. And the only other person that said something very profound to Geto was Yuki. Yes. So Yuki's going to be able to talk no jutsu him a little bit too.
Let's go.
So we'll see how that pans out. I would really love to see Geto try to fight back right now. This is the time for it, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a really good time, especially now that you just made that point about Yuki being, one of the only other people in his flashback. She was really the one that gave him all of the most important dialogue. Really, obviously his conversations with the Gojo and Nanami matter. But Nanami was kind of there in passing, you know what I mean, a couple panels. But he legitimately had a sit down conversation with Yuki, Haibara, and then of course Gojo. You know what I mean? And obviously Shoko is there wherever she fits in. But Yuki being here is a big deal for him. That's so cool. I didn't even think about that when I first read this.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful. So, you guys good on? You guys
10 out of 10 chapter.
Oh yeah, this is easily a 10 out of 10 chapter if there ever was one. But
I'm good. Yeah.
You guys good? Okay, cool. All right, getting into Dr. Stone, chapter 181. Is this New World Science? Look at this double spread.
So beautiful. And even the first color page too.
The color page can't sleep on the first color page either. But man, when I turned that page and saw him shaking up with Ace in a portal. So wait, so is this him saving Ace from Akainu then, right? He's trying to punch him and he bounces through a portal?
Yeah.
Beautiful. That, I almost started crying when I saw this.
I
was like, yo,
it's
imagine.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ace confirmed back in One Piece. He's going to come back and help Luffy and them in Onigashima.
Another cross epoch episode coming up. Remember when they did that? Remember when they did that?
He just jumps in hey, didn't y'all see Dr. Stone? Senku brought me back with science. I don't know how I'm here. Ask that guy.
But do y'all remember that episode of, I don't even know if it was an episode of anything specifically, but it was a cross-epoch episode where Luffy and Toriko and Goku are in a world martial arts tournament.
Yeah. That
was some funny shit. They tried to jump Goku and he scraped him in base.
I mean... Toei, they were trying stuff back then. They were trying to, it's like, hey, we have other things that, Dragon Ball was big. You guys remember Dragon Ball? And now we got One Piece, so that's big. But hey, we also got Toriko over here. You guys might want to try to watch Toriko. And it's like, no thanks.
I'm good.
I got One Piece and Dragon Ball. I'm straight. I'll just watch Dragon Ball. But man, okay, so they test the Medusas and they're all dead.
Yep.
I think I figured that. You know what I mean? I didn't think.
Yeah.
But I think
as the characters say, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Taiju testing it.
Yeah.
1 meter, 1 second, 1 meter, 1 second, 1 meter, 1 second, all the way up. Like, it's just...
Dude is ballsy. Like,
So
such trust in Senku, right, in the squad.
Yeah.
He's willing to give his body for the cause.
Yeah. And I always love when Chrome, and I know that this is a little bit later on in the chapter, but I just want to mention this because I just thought of it. I love when Chrome notices something that surprises Senku and Dr. Zeno in this situation.
Yeah, even in this situation.
Because it's like, although they are geniuses, and if they had infinite time, obviously they could think of everything.
Right.
But these, once you start thinking of something, it takes time for you to think of everything. And the fact that Chrome finds, that genius, thought before Senku and Dr. Zeno does, it's just great for his character. It's great for the story.
It is.
Everything. And it's feasible. Like, it's actually possible.
Exactly.
He has less social conditioning, right? Like, he has less experience, so he's looking way more outside the box than Senku and Dr. Zeno, because they're scientists. They do this shit all the time. So, like, they're thinking of, obviously they can think outside the box too, but they're thinking basically of, like, straightforward science, like, how would this work, by the book kind of stuff.
First things first is just, like, memorized, like, deeply ingrained by the book, complicated science stuff. And obviously they know that you always want to start simple, as simple as you can. Right. But still, like, that is probably an issue for them, at least for the first X amount of time when they're contemplating something.
Definitely. When you have to go through your mental Rolodex of science information, which we know is, like, deep as the abyss with these two characters, it's like, how long, sure, they come to these conclusions very quick a lot of the time on certain things. But, like, even saying, like, Chrome thinks outside the box, like, it's just, he is free of, like, the shackles. Like, it's just like his mind can go wherever it wants, and it's like I have only this limited science base, but, like, with that, I can think of simplistic solutions that may be right in front of your face, but nobody else can think of them because they don't have the science base. Like, you can't, Kohaku's not going to think of these things, right?
But imagination is just as important to science as your history of scientific processes.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I think that Chrome being there as the novice scientific mind that understands the scientific method enough to apply it regularly, but is naive enough to grab those out of the box ideas quicker than Senku and Dr. Zeno because of their Rolodex.
Exactly. And he can make mistakes. He does make mistakes, right? Where like he was like, oh yeah, like we should make like an automatic revival fluid, pour on her, some machine that just pours it on us automatically. And they immediately shut him down and say like, well, if you think about it a little bit, like you'd realize like that's not going to work.
But he wasn't wrong. It just wasn't the best idea. Like you could still have done that and that would make sense, but there was a better option, what I mean? Which is a lot of what science is too. It's just full
the team. The team is like very well balanced such that like Chrome can kind of think a little even more extreme for himself, right? Like he's just throwing out ideas with his intuition, his scientific intuition, and it's okay if he's wrong. Like if he's wrong, he gets a learning opportunity. If he's right, he blows the fucking pants off of Senku and Zeno, which is MVP again in this chapter.
And I love how Tsukasa's got brass knuckles with like a shell on it, so just like wooden brass knuckles. Like I would assume it's wood.
I don't think so.
For the casing,
I think it's metal.
Yeah, maybe it could be metal, but it just looked a little bit more grainy. And I guess I assumed when I first looked at it that it was a wood frame, and then like the brass knuckle part of it was like the giant shell or whatever the fuck that is on the top of it.
It does look grainy, but I mean it could be that way with metal, like just worn metal, and I don't know, it kind of feels like when you look at it closely, like it's made out of the same material the fucking Medusas are made out of, but that's probably not true.
But it could just come down to like Boichi's just like photo realism approach to manga illustration.
Definitely,
you know what I mean?
Definitely.
If it looked like this in like any other manga, we'd probably be like, that's obviously wood.
Yeah, obviously wood.
Because I mean, like it's so grainy, but I mean, like he's so good at drawing things how they actually look in reality that like an actual metal thing could look like this.
I speaking of Tsukasa, I absolutely love and have loved the entire story obviously like Senku and Tsukasa's relationship. They are like on the same wavelength all the time, and I love these quips that they go back and forth like, oh well, there's a whole nother route we can take now, right, Senku? Right. And they just smashes one, you know what I mean? Like, there's no confirmation, no elaborating. It's just that they both know exactly what they're talking about. They're like super bros, you know what I mean? It's like so cool. Like, in a different way than Taiju, obviously, but like
it very much feels
so
like
cool.
Reed Richards and Ben Grimm's relationship, and I love being able to like pull comic book references out whenever they make sense. But Reed Richards and Ben Grimm are very much on this wavelength where Ben Grimm is obviously a big hulking monster. He's very strong, just like Tsukasa is, but both of their characters aren't like dumb just because they're overwhelmingly powerful. You know what I mean? Like obviously Tsukasa and Ben Grimm can't hold a candle intellectually to Reed Richards and Senku, but the fact that they're so, like-minded in regard to like logic, you know what I mean, means that Tsukasa can finish Senku's sentences because of how, adept he is. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that he understands these scientific processes like Senku does and can finish his calculations for him, but like logic shit like this, absolutely, dude. 2 peas
logic, like we have 1 billion of these. We can break as many as we want. Let's just break them open. Let's rip them open. Let's see what's inside.
Yep. And I right before Tsukasa punches the thing, the page right before is probably my favorite page of, well, a couple pages of Zeno giving his like, beautiful speech. And of course, Gen's like, hey, that stirring speech was just misdirection to divert everybody's eyes. Like, that's not going to work on me. What's in your pocket, buddy? Take your hands out your pocket. Like, you tap those pockets, man. And I was just, I loved it. And then, you got fucking, it's Chrome trying to like rip his, and they're just like, Senku's just like, let him. I mean, what's it gonna hurt? Like,
what's he gonna do?
He can't do shit with this anyway. He's basically in our custody. I mean, he's in our custody. He can't do shit. And I love how it comes back to like, hey, help us basically figure out, what Stanley's trying to do. And he's like, why would I help you guys figure out anything Stanley's trying to do? I'll help you when it benefits my well-being. Like if I think what you're doing is going to get me killed, then I'm going to tell you, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But like, that's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm giving you.
That's huge for Zeno because it's like, okay, obviously he's introduced as a villain, but now that he's being a hostage, you don't just want like an annoying, villain complaining the entire time. And obviously Zeno is set up in a way to where he doesn't have to do that because he can participate in scientific conversations with Senku, you know what I mean, and advance the plot with his contributions, or wherever he can pick up where Senku lacks and vice versa. It's he's a great addition to the team, but he doesn't like it, Riichi, right? Riichiro? Yeah, Riichiro, I think is the name of the author. He knows how to write Dr. Zeno in a way that helps the plot, but doesn't make it feel weird that a villain is allying the protagonist's side. You know what I mean? Like, because
it's beautifully done.
It's beautifully done. Yeah, and and because of how beautifully it's done, that's why I feel like it's so hard for me to explain it, because there's so much going into why it's so beautifully done. But like, yes, you guys know what I'm talking about. Great. Hopefully the audience does too. You know what I mean.
For sure.
Dude, and I love Gen's character. I'm sorry, I just went past the page again where he tells Zeno to like run his pockets or whatever. I love how like Gen's character obviously represents street smarts, you know what I mean, because they're, all of these characters represent different aspects of, regular characters that you'd see in a story about rebuilding society. You need the smart one, you need the strong one, you need the street smart one, you need the, you know what I mean? So everyone fills that role, but it's so cool to see Gen's character represent street smarts in like a role that is like mentalist, you know what I mean? Like usually the street smart characters are just like urban characters. Like you could have grabbed a fucking street kid from Chicago or some shit to be the street smart character in Dr. Stone, because you can pull literally anyone from anywhere in this story, you know what I mean? But just like, that's just so creative again as a character, you know what I mean? Like,
the science behind his character, like so many of the things that Gen does, you get the same like scientific explanation you get like when Senku's doing shit, right? Like I talked about it a couple episodes ago. Like one of my favorite things is how Gen's like, hey, we're gonna sit at the bar together, so we are equals. We are going to look at each other from and not across from each other, like we are in a negotiation. It's like, this isn't a negotiation, this is just us, whatever. Like it just gives you, it takes the formality away, takes the pressure away, like just things like that. Like you get these deep explanations.
You feel like you're an opponent.
You feel you're an opponent. Exactly
like
right.
Chess, cards. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like everything. When you're sitting across from someone, I have to beat you.
So that's such like an important. I feel like that is like probably some of the best information I've ever taken out of a manga that I can apply to my real life after quarantine once. It's like, hey, if I gotta talk to somebody, like something important, some kind of deal or anything, it's like, hey, let's go to a bar.
Someone sitting next to them, not across from them.
And it's like, let's go to a bar. And it's like, when you get to the bar, it's like, hey, are we gonna sit in a booth? Are we gonna sit at the bar? It's like, no, we're gonna sit at the bar. And you know,
because then it's not weird that we're sitting right next to each other, even though we're not on a date.
Yes.
Because if you sit in a booth, it's like, you have to sit across from each other in a booth. You know what I mean? But it's so cool because it's like street smarts as a job. Like this was his job was street smarts in the present world. You know what I mean? Essentially, or the jobification of street smarts, essentially. You know, or whatever I'm trying to say, but
manipulating people for money, fortune telling, and subtle, that kind of stuff.
It's weird that it feels sometimes a lot of times. So maybe it's just because I don't understand a lot of the science. Like there's no way for me to figure out like what Senku's doing, right? Like I am not that smart of a person.
We're at the mercy of his explanations.
Exactly. I'm not that educated to know what the fuck Senku's doing, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there isn't either, right? Like so, but like it feels like I am learning more from Gen than I learned from Senku. Like I really, really, really honestly feel like the things he's teaching you can use in real life so much more than, I mean, not so much more than science, because that's crazy. And there's a different type of science.
And this is science anyway.
Exactly.
Science,
it's a different type of science. But like, just, man, it's just like, I feel like this is real. He's dropping life lessons on it.
Always.
In a lot of ways.
Whenever he says anything, I'm like, bruh.
Yeah.
Like, and it makes so much, like, you are the street smart character. Like, this is going to speak to people who, like, excel in those areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we're not physicists. We're not, sailors. We're not, extreme physical, genetic freaks, or anything we can only really relate to again. You know what I mean? For the most part.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't even have to be Gen to be the one doing whatever is being done, the underhanded thing or whatever it is. It's like, now with Zeno, it's like in this situation, like if anybody starts giving some weird grandiose speech out of nowhere, start watching their hands, right? Like it's like it's like you really, it's like this is out of place. I don't feel like I need this guy saying all these weird words to me. It's like what's really going on? Like, keep an eye on his hands now, right? That's like weird. It's just, and actually I've known that trick for a long time, and it's different. It's a little different from where I come from.
Should just always be watching someone's hands, regardless of what they talk about.
And they're not going to make a grandiose speech. They're going to, it's going to be different kind of misdirection. But sure. It's definitely something to take into real life.
I love the radar conversation that they have. Is that where you were going to go, Nick?
Yep.
I love
exactly.
the radar conversation. Because I was literally just researching the Iron Man armors. I'm talking about comic books a lot this episode. I was just researching the Iron Man armors, and they were talking about the technology that Tony Stark put in his suit to hide from radar tech. You know what I mean? And that was like, obviously the first time I'd ever heard of technology like that, you know what I mean? And then seeing it here, like just so soon after looking into that was really fucking cool. I was like, oh, I kind of get this like more. I got the Marvel explanation, the Senku explanation. Like,
sure,
I feel like I get this shit. You know what I mean? Even though they explain it really easily in this, but that was just really cool.
But definitely super tight, like just this whole making a stealth vehicle, and like this is what stealth ships do look like or whatever in real life, and then I like that they build one and they fail, right? Like we need some more of that. Is that his name, Ukyo?
Ukyo.
Yeah, Ukyo.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, but it's not
stealth-ish.
It's not up to regulation. Yeah.
But in the middle of this conversation, like after they are done with the first version or whatever, I want you all to look at page 18, top panel with Chrome. I feel like this pose of Chrome here in the top panel of page 18 is an Usopp reference. His nose is long. He's looking up laughing.
And he's not lying. Yeah, so why would his nose be long if he's not lying, unless it's an Usopp reference?
His eyes look very much like Usopp in a kind of like gloating sense or whatever, right? I feel like he's like literally laughing like Usopp, like, aren't we so badass here, right?
Yes, bro.
Which I think makes sense given the cover spread, right? The One Piece
definitely.
cover spread.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But then Chrome just MVP, like, hey, I mean, if these things block radar, let's cover the whole boat in them.
Yes.
And Senku's like, oh my god, you're a genius.
Even Zeno is like, this kid.
Yeah. And the best part of the whole thing, I mean, is really at the end with like Yusui saying like, hey, this New World crafting project that blasts past the 21st century tech. It's like we're going into the realm of futuristic science here, which is so good for the story, because it's like when you like, do we end once we get to 21st century technology? Like, is that the end of Dr. Stone? No, it's not. We're going to, now we're going to get into whatever hypotheses and pseudoscience or whatever. We're going to take this the next step.
We're bringing the science fiction element.
Yes.
That's doubly huge, especially depending on how much the writer leans into it, right? Because so far it has been very scientific, right? Like very much this is all possible stuff. You could definitely do all of this. It'd probably take a lot longer than it takes them because they're all experts in their fields or whatever. But we could literally move into, it's not science anymore. Now we're going into the magic portion of the story, where now you can do almost anything you want, depending on how far you lean into the idea that, okay, we do have technology from, you know, essentially magic. It's so futuristic, it's magic to us. That could really open up some crazy battles, like crazy situations, you know what I mean? Like,
What's crazy about what you're saying too is like, just even using the term magic, it feels like, okay, since we aren't scientifically adept as Senku, it's really hard to predict which way Senku's ever going to go with anything. It's like so much of like doing this, not only this show, but just this type of content is theorizing, right? Like you're gonna read the story and say, hey, I think this is gonna happen, and that's just how it is. Dr. Stone, it's like so hard to do that because you don't have the scientific background to make those decisions. So like, or those you know, you can't come up with any of that. But like what Nick's saying, like, hey, if we get to a magic or like when now science fiction, it's like it feels like eventually maybe we will start to be able to predict a little more what's going to happen.
Sure.
But then maybe still probably not, because it's going to still be deeply rooted in real science. And it's like,
you've heard this quote. This is an Arthur C. Clarke quote. You've heard this quote before, but any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That's like a very famous quote about this exact situation, right? Because once it gets so advanced, like as we've been saying, we don't know science enough to know what Senku is actually thinking. But what if Senku doesn't know how something works, right? Boom. It is now in essentially magic territory. It appears as magic. So that could be very
that's like the God
interesting.
Gap. You know
It could be super interesting for the story if we go heavily into that route.
Wow. Yeah, we're on the way. And I mean, I guess last thing I'd have to say is the ship's blinging, right? Like I'd be super happy to pull up in there. I pull up in that thing, you know, like, hey, I better get some valet front row. I better get, you know, free parking, you know, $500.
Free everything. The whole shit, bro. What you mean? You don't see my ship? What's this bill for?
Do you know who I am?
Excuse
me. I'm the smartest guy on this planet.
Chauncey, pull the ship around. These guys don't know who I am. You guys good?
So, yeah, that's all I had.
Cool. Okay, moving into Mashle, Magic and Muscles, chapter 46, Rain, Aims, and God's Gift. This was...
biggest chapter of Mashle yet.
The biggest chapter of Mashle yet. And
maybe chapter of the week. I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to think of right now. Like I'm like, is this my chapter of the week right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, man,
it's not mine.
I'm so excited.
But you have to admit,
it's very good. It's very, very
incredible.
Right? I mean, I'll just say Hero is mine this week.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair too.
That makes
we'll get there later. But this chapter was ridiculously good.
My
jaw was dropped half the chapter.
Gotta shout out. Gotta shout out
top tier shit.
Gotta shout out Yato for a thought that he threw out earlier in a group chat when we were talking about this. He said, I love how Mashle, and I feel like we've kind of talked about this before on the show too, but he said, I appreciate Mashle because it feels a lot like One Punch Man, where it starts out really gag heavy and then moves into a way more serious, overarching tone with comedy splashed in. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where we're seeing, you know, Mashle, and we have been talking about how that's how Mashle has been going and how happy we are with that. But it really reminds me, you know, when Yato said that, it really reminded me, you know, of that thought that we've had on the show, especially in this chapter, because what we get in this chapter is so huge, but there's such a funny moment in the beginning where he gets the same space on the board again. You've just been you have no magic. You're you know, you can't
Game
use
over.
magic,
In
game
a
over,
board
whatever.
game.
Yeah, they're like, this is the second time that's happened to you, and he's like, I'm just gonna go outside and get some air, you guys. And they're like, man, he's really taking this like hard, man. Like, well, of course it is, dude. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. You know what I mean? If I was him, I'd be mad at society. Boom, panel over. Now that I'm away. Yeah.
To do one minor point here, I bet like the dice that they're rolling, right, is not a regular dice. It's like a magical dice. I would not be surprised if like literally this board game was literally outing him. Like he rolls the dice, quote unquote. The game is like, this dude doesn't got magic.
Yeah.
Put him in that square. Put him in that space.
Yeah, because you hold the dice in your hand, it probably reads your magic. And then tells you, you know, puts you to the square appropriate to you as a person. You know,
I could definitely see that.
And that's gotta be what it is. Oh my god!
And starting the chapter this way does a lot of things for like just the whole chapter as a whole, because it's like, okay, yeah, he's going to run outside and eat his cream puff, and of course we get our gag, which we need.
But that leads him organically to the conflict he needs
into
to be
the fight. And it reinforces everything that Rain is saying about him right here. How he has unwavering resolve, and like he's fighting against his fate, because it's like even this board game is like, this is his fate, right? Like I have no magic. You don't even get to play the game. Get the fuck out, right? Like, and he's fighting against that. Maybe not against this board game, because who cares? But like in life, in who he is, like the systemic, you know, it just does so much for like to warm this. I just thought that was just like beautifully done this way to transition to the big shit that happens in the chapter, and I mean, Rain is cool as shit, man. Like,
Rain
to just have
cool
all this like
shit.
It's really reminiscent of like what Iruka was saying about Naruto right at the beginning, right? Like it's like it really feels like, hey man, he could fucking hate his life. He could just fucking wallow in his own self-pity. He could want to kill himself. Like, you know, he could be mad at you know, but that's not who he is, right? Like he doesn't
complain about shit like that. He tries to do something about it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It does. You want to know what? Dude, it does
hard.
totally feel very Naruto and Iruka in that moment. I didn't even think about that. What I was thinking about is how well, like when you have like a theme, you know what I mean? Like royalty isn't everything. You know what I mean? Like this is a theme, you know, that is kind of like shared between Mashle and Black Clover. I mean, just you know, Mashle, just because Mash doesn't have any magic, period, so therefore he's in the class that he's in below the regular class. But in Black Clover, even if you have magic, you can be scum compared to royalty. You know what I mean? Whereas in Mashle, it seems that royalty matters, but like the only discrimination you really see is if you're magicless, period, not just from a certain part of the world. But for some reason, I don't know why, like whenever they're talking about that theme of injustice and inequality, like I always just love how if you're gonna rehash it over and over again, find different ways to say that thing. Don't just say the same thing over and over again wherever it applies. Sure, it applies there, but like switch it up. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but like Black Clover really makes me feel that oppression, you know, aspect of the story, because of how eloquently the dialogue, you know, shows that in the story, you know, and paints that picture for you. You know what I mean? Inside of just MASH, we don't ever see society at large complaining about magicless people. It's only the higher ups, because they're probably usually the only ones that ever really have to deal with them. But still, you know what I mean? Like, even though we don't have that societal aspect of people constantly, you know, flaming magicless people, I still feel that theme. I feel like so much harder in Mashle right now than like, you know, other areas. But, and then another thing, I feel like this chapter confirms a couple things. So one, last chapter, I think I was saying that Margaret is so excited because he's also a triple liner, I think is what I said in the last review. You know what I mean? But now this chapter makes me think that he's obviously not, right? Because because so then
otherwise,
that was cool. Otherwise
bust it out, and we wouldn't be so surprised by like the transformation or whatever.
Absolutely. So that was cool to get confirmation on that. Also, is howling sound. So this is a specific attack that has a specific effect. And I believe last week we were talking about, I think it was me and Kiko kind of going back and forth, like, is this like, because he said howling sounds and then he said something else sounds. I can't remember what the other one was.
Slicing sounds or something
like that. And I think there was a confusion there where it was like, is this like a specific ability that has a certain set, or is he just saying things? But we got that confirmation here, so that's really cool too.
Super sick.
Man, Mashle checking so many boxes inside of continuity and
it is
just like everything, bro. Like,
how about Rain asking Margaret, like, "Hey, this was Order Maydol who put you up to this, right?" And that is the Desert Cane. That's another one of the divine visionaries, the one with the two glasses, or the two glasses, the glasses.
I'm glad you remembered that because I didn't remember who he was talking about, but I didn't look it up, so I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, and this is good because I mean, you already saw with God, I forgot the whatever Kane, the cool the guy, the one that was kind of against the rest of them, whatever. Like, I'm on Mash's side.
The light Kane? With the candles.
Yeah, with the candles. The light cane. But it's like we already kind of see that there's like differences and ideologies between these people. But like now it's like really shows like it feels like a lot more than that. It feels like these people are all kind of at each other's throats. There's infighting. I mean, maybe I'm taking that a step too far with what we know right now, but there's definitely infighting within the
there's
divine
differences
visionaries.
of opinion guaranteed.
Yes, and more so than differences of opinion, it almost seems like they I mean, differences in opinion are going to lead to differences in their agenda and what they're pushing and stuff like that. But like it seems like at least some of them have some kind of, and maybe all divine visionaries have some kind of aspiration to go above that, whatever the fuck's above a divine visionary. But like the tactics that they're going to employ to get there, are going to be vastly different. And if Rain suspects this guy in particular right away, like it's this one, even though most of them kind of look shady, other than the light cane,
right?
But it's this one. It's not the big. It's not the fucking crazy like berserk fucking hand to hand fighting dude. Like
Okay, I see more what you're getting at. That it is interesting to call that guy out in particular, right? Like
when we have no other history of him being suspicious of him or their beef or anything like that.
Right. And at the time in that courtroom or whatever, he definitely was maybe the most vocal and the most adamant against MASH or whatever. But like it's good as a reminder because like it could have been any name, right? But like calling him out specifically does highlight that there's like differences in how zealous you are about the cause. How what do you think? Like, should MASH be killed or should he be on the team? You know what I mean? Because he's so powerful. Like I love that.
And a couple of chapters ago, it was another person asking Margaret to do this, right? Like it wasn't a divine visionary. It was like that. I felt like it was an old guy. I'm pretty sure it was an old guy. I felt like it was one of the old guys from other old guy from the court, but maybe it wasn't. Regardless, it was not this guy who asked him that. At least in that instance, maybe Order. His name is Order, just with a T, which is kind of messing me up. But Order says, "Hey, I need you to go do this job. Like, go make Margaret do this." So, like, it still could be him, through proxy, But yeah, like when I heard the name, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's got to be that old guy or whoever the fuck he was sitting at the table with." And so I had to go back and look at those, and I'm like, "No, that's not it." And then I had to go actually look up who it was. But yeah, I think. And another thing that I found out too while reading about it is that this dude, Order Maydol, is an older brother of a character that we've already seen who's been douchey. I didn't remember. I didn't.
He was part of the Magia Lupus, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so that is.
So it was the other dude with the Lennon glasses. And the witch doctor hat and staff. Yeah, bro. Wow.
No. The one that Lance fought. The one that Lance
fought with the mud. That's what I'm talking about. No, that's a different guy though.
No, because the one that he fought with the mud is the same dude who was standing there next to the girl that Doubt fought.
That's what I said, I think last episode or 2 episodes ago, and I was mistaken. I was mistaken or whatever. Like the dude with the hat, the dude with the big witch's hat is not Order Maydol's brother.
Correct.
There's a different dude who almost looks identical, like a similar like black hair, scruffy hair, glasses, had mud magic. I don't know, but I forget what magic the flat brim guy had, but
it was mud. Yeah. Did we see him fight?
No, I thought he had like ghost magic or curse magic or some kind of shit.
No,
like
bro, that was the dude. Nah, bro, I swear that was the dude with mud magic.
Regardless,
we should.
As you look it up, I think the triple line effect, like initially when Rain has the triple line pop out, it's just an up and down line, right? Yeah. But now in this chapter, there's the cross. It's a cross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So sick, and then like
like a sword.
Sure, like a sword. I was thinking. I was also thinking like a cross, like an actual cross, because eventually we get this dialogue that it's black magic, like specifically calling out that it's black magic,
right?
Which is obviously a type of magic very common in like video games and all fantasy storytelling or whatever.
Yeah,
just super sick.
So I had a question about the black magic, right? So when you see him fully activate into his form, and he has this amazing trident now. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. We could talk about it. He looks amazing. You know what I mean? We can talk about that too. But when you go the panel where it reveals it, there's a cloth that's wrapped around the trident that he's holding. Like he's holding the trident where the cloth is. Is that because like black magic, like he doesn't want to touch the black magic emanating from the trident, and the cloth is not associated with the black magic, so it's like an oven glove for the black magic, you know what I mean, essentially. Yeah. But that's just one thing that I thought. I mean, it's probably just an aesthetic thing, and that just looks cool. So his hand is there, and it's just tight. Could be that.
It does look cool.
But I thought about it, you know what I mean? Like if black magic, you know, like is, you know, maybe it's dangerous, you know what I mean? Unless you have a certain proficiency with it, just because you have access to it doesn't mean it's nice to you, kind of like situation, you know what I mean? So it could be that, and maybe that is blocking him from coming, you know, as in contact with black magic as he maybe wants to. I don't know, but that was just a thought that I had there.
Definitely, like the fact that black magic is being called out so specifically, right? Definitely. Like it's not regular magic, it's black magic. It's not the normal good magic, it's bad, right? Like you could probably assume it's either bad or incredibly powerful or rare, but like it's definitely special, you know what I mean? And like and even the way it's drawn, like black partisan is fucking, oh my god,
so good. And you want to know what? And the fact that wands are a thing. Now here's the thing. Now we've all read a lot of fiction, a lot of magic stories. Like this feels so obvious now that we have it, but that just shows that Komoto is so good at the look over here, because there's so much to talk about with the lines, magic affinities, families, and it's all the world building is confusing. This is the perfect time to drop. Oh no, this is the perfect time to drop. Yeah, wands are a thing too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because for the record.
Someone probably would have guessed that eventually after like coming down from all of the other stimuli in the manga. You know what I mean? Like you have to drop that right now, I feel like, or at least somewhere around here, because maybe 10, 15, 20 chapters from now, you know, people might start putting it together that you want this to shock people. Like you want this to be a surprise, even though it's obvious, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So this is just perfect placement of this concept right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that are kind of weird, right? Like Abel was a triple liner. He never concealed it. It never had to appear on his face. It never cut a big fucking sword in his face like fucking Reigns has. He didn't transform his wand. He wasn't told that he was, you know, like, I mean, he was told that he was gifted, but he wasn't told like his magic was like godly or whatever, you know. Like,
but it says, but Wahlberg says, their power can call upon a god's strength from within. So you can be a triple liner and still be cold, but still just not have done the wand thing yet.
Well,
or that Abel's was an artificial triple line, right? Sure. Like he was given a triple line through some means we've not fully explained yet, and so maybe that was only power level. And again, you know, definitely says there's different types, but I would imagine that they're.
I like that given idea, because we
given
know
versus earned, and then like earned, you get the transformation.
Like there is science inside of Mashle that allows you to take other people's magic and do other things with it. You know what I mean? We know that you can convert magic power into a liquid that you can drink to boost your own. So since there's things like that, genetic manipulation is definitely not off the table. You know what I mean? So I like that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it doesn't even have to be genetic. It could just be a magic spell casted or whatever. Yeah. And
whenever there's a beaker, I just assume there's scientific processes of some kind going on. You know,
and for sure. And when we've theorized about Wahlberg being a single liner and that he has just suppressed all of his lines, I mean, maybe there's something to that too. Like Abel could have been born with all three lines and doesn't know how to. No, we already talked about that. He was only born with two.
I don't care if you see all three of my shit. Yeah,
he was definitely born with only two, because he has, when he's a kid, as a flashback, he only has two.
Yeah,
but like regardless, like given versus earned. I mean, because earned, like especially in this case, like. It's really like we've never seen a line just appear, right? Other than Rain's. Like Rain is the only person to make one appear in the middle of a battle. It's not something that's like, okay, it's not like something that's like, okay, I'm fighting and like I'm so desperate that I'm going to unlock this ability. Like this is already something Rain has already had and he has suppressed it. So so like
that much better.
much better. Definitely. well, but like even so, like what I'm really even meaning is that it does give a lot of credence to the earned versus given and suppressing lines still, right? Like I mean all those things all those things are huge for this Magic system and to keep it interesting and fun and not predictable. So I'm really happy that
I like predictable
especially
when this is something I had before that you just didn't know about versus I'm getting something that I didn't even know about and you don't know about in the moment that I need it is always going to hit harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Kiko, did you look up that stuff? I've also pulled it up now.
Worth is his brother. Worth Madel, and he's the third member. The one with the hat is the fourth member, and he was never named.
Yeah, he was unnamed.
Worth
the guy
Madel.
with the hat. Yeah, Worth Madel.
So the dude with the witch hat is an unnamed member of the Meiji Lupus, the fourth Fang, and the Worth is the third Fang, the third ranking member, and he is named and he had the mud magic. And
that makes a lot more sense since he fought Lance. He would be the highest ranking. That's not like Abyss.
And it also makes sense given that Order Madel is as you said, the Desert Cane, right?
Yeah, the Desert Cane.
So deserts, sand, mud, same family category of magic, which then gives us evidence. I would say that Finn is also going to have some sort of sword or metal magic, not lightning.
Maybe instead of slashing and piercing like Rain, maybe he has density and weight and mass and drops anvils on you.
Yeah, if you go the metal the route instead of the weapon route, or it could be spears, like a piercing instead of a slashing.
Blunt concussive force could be clubs,
maces,
hammers.
I just want to see him drop the Acme anvil on somebody.
So we got to talk a little bit more about the wands and like the fact that it's gods, like the god of war, Ares, right? Like summoning that, and this whole time, this whole story.
Text. I assumed that was just flavor text and not
but this whole series, all these mages have been saying like, well, magic is like granted by God, right? Granted by the gods, and it's like, and you'd be like, yeah, of course you would say that. You're some sort of racist against non-magic people or whatever, right? Like, that's, of course, what you would say.
And plus, it's just like, we can't explain this with the science we have, so it's got to be God-given.
But now it seems like it is related to gods.
Right, because now he's got the cross, which I still want to say is just sword.
It could be, definitely could be sword. Definitely could be sword.
But that is a cross there. It's not the first time we've seen crosses. It's not the first time we've seen crosses in this story.
Right.
We've got a lot of, Judeo-Christian references, in Mashle, you know what I mean?
But then summon Ares, god of war, like what the fuck?
But like I really, man, this double spread, bro, of the Black Partisan, the illustration techniques used on this are just like techniques I didn't think that I would see in an attack like this. Like you see like what he's doing, and you're like, the slash is good, the big axe, head is fine, like all of this makes sense, but then this like cloudy, misty with all the stipple shading inside of it. You know what I'm saying? Like this is tight as fuck, bro. Like
it's immensely tight.
Yeah, Magi.
Feels a lot like
very Magi.
It does feel like
very
Magi. Yeah. Man, I just like very bubbly, cloudy illustrations for special effects. You know what I mean?
It looks phenomenal. It looks
so good.
This is like one of the biggest chapters of Mashle, if not the biggest.
So like much like just the illustration that's used on this double split, like I see so much, like just how much stark black to use next to these grays, the stippling, the cross hatching, everything is the whites used. I love manga art. Like this is the best medium like for art, I feel like, inside of storytelling. You know what I mean? Man, it's
hard to argue. Hard to argue that.
Man,
hard to argue.
I'm not going to try very hard to argue that on Project Manga.
Yeah.
No.
I'm gonna agree with you on that point.
So let's talk a little bit more about the weapon though. Like, so like when you initially see it, you're like, okay, God of War, you're Ares, but why do you got a trident? I feel like you're Poseidon, but it's not a trident, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not a trident. If you look like those two other metal parts,
it's a partisan.
Yeah, but they're not connected. And partisans are but like a partisan doesn't look like a fucking actual trident that has like this.
This is very extreme, stylized.
Yeah.
But it's not even though, like, because
those are floating. Those
are floating.
Yes.
And partisans don't have to be tri-pronged. They can be. They're different types of spears that whatever. There's different types of partisans. So like it doesn't have to actually be tri-pronged like that. So like I really, because at first I was like, why would we do God of Ares and give him a trident? Like this isn't working for me, right? But then
knowing that
it's
not
closer,
a tried and true trident means that it's just a weapon, and any weapon can represent a god of war.
Well, and the fact that those two other
trident because his brother is Poseidon,
and it's like, and the two other blades that are outside of it are floating around it. They're not connected, you know. So like, I mean, that's just really cool. I wonder if that means anything. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just you know, whatever aesthetic choice and make it cool.
To be fair, can definitely look identical to tridents. Like,
very like because it has the main spear point and then the two like
secondary
things sticking out and like
it's just so much. It covers such a smaller area than a trident. A trident is big and open, and that's
it almost has equal length, you know, blades for
the
each
middle is a little longer,
a little bit longer, but then the other two are, you know, not that far behind it. You know,
right.
Mm-hmm.
It is very trident looking.
Definitely a partisan. Absolutely.
Right. Of course. Granted that he then immediately says black partisan, right?
Like, sure.
Yeah.
But
oh my god,
makes me, of course, think like, I mean, how many more of these gods? I mean, how many like are going to be channeled into wands? Like, what? Like, I mean, can all the divine visionaries do this? Probably not. Is this just like his own a class that's like above most? There is very, very, very few triple liners, which I would assume, but like even like amongst the school and like within the school's history, maybe even that would be crazy. And then I guess the big question is, how the fuck does Mash fight somebody like this now, right? Like this is
So I was going to throw out an interesting theory here that I thought of when I thought of when I saw Ares, right? Yeah. Like what about Mash and how would Mash fight? Hercules, right?
Yeah,
like who is Mash? He's fucking Hercules. Yeah. He's strong as hell. Like he doesn't have like lightning bolts and fire and shit. He's just super strong. So like I would not be surprised if he manifests his stand of you know Hercules or whatever from his wand. Of course that would be a little weird because obviously he doesn't have magic. But like,
I think what if
it's not magical? It's tied to your spirit or something. You know, your soul.
It's just represented in the illustration as like, you know, a stand, but it's just like, you know, malice a manifestation of malice, you know,
sure,
where it's still just all 100% his physical capabilities, but now we're getting illustrations to represent his fighting spirit in the form of Hercules, in the form of, you know, whatever.
And and now that Mash has seen this battle, he could even use that comedically, right? He could say like, you know what? It's time for my serious series of moves, like, you know, Saitama, right? Like he's like, time to get serious. Hercules punch, you know, you see like the stand, like the malice stand over his back, like punching, you know, like that'd be tight too.
And it could actually be that this is some kind of divine intervention and people are designated some kind of god at birth, and this is what happens to the Hercules god is you don't get magic, right? Like
love it.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Bro.
That'd be super tight.
You don't. Yes, bro, because that's perfect.
That'd be super tight. And I just thought of that right now.
That's
good stuff.
I love that. Because it's like Hercules obviously, you know, chills with the gods, even though he isn't one, because he's capable enough to be respected by them. Because I think he's like
he's a demigod. He's a demigod.
Right. But that would still be cool if it was like, you're not a god like us, so the representation of that difference in demigod to god is you don't have magic, so you're Hercules. You know what I mean? Like,
is there gonna be a whole class of demigods? Like you get a Nemesis, you get a
Thor,
fucking, like You get a Medusa. You get a, like,
Wait,
well, these would be Greek.
No,
these would be all Greek. No,
Thor's
a full god, and he's Norse. But like, you get a Medusa, you get a Nemesis. Yeah, you get those types. Those are all demigods. Like there's a whole slew of them that could be their own. Hey, Mash is about to join up with the demigod
Abyss
squad.
Razor is Hermes?
Hermes is a full god.
Oh, he is.
But Abyss Razor is a magic user.
Yeah.
Oh, it was
right.
Yeah.
He could be Hermes. He could be Hermes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like it could be that the categories of magic, like there's fire magic and mud magic, but mud and also sand, obviously, and light and all this stuff, right?
Finn is lightning.
It could be.
He's probably not, though.
But probably not.
But if he is
metal but yes. But
Zeus.
Well, he probably has Aries too, like his brother.
Oh,
but
sure.
regardless, like it could be that all magic types in Mashle. It could be that all magic types eventually boil down not to an element, but to a god, right? Like, but the god then obviously is very elemental. But there's gods that aren't elemental. For example, like the god of music, right? I'm sure there's
Apollo.
a god of music, like in
We're about to
Greek
see that in
mythology.
Margaret. Margaret's about to block this with Apollo right now. Shit! He's third line. He's third line, and he's about to block with Apollo.
That can be so tight.
Oh my god, bro!
I don't think I don't. I mean, man, if that happens, I'm so ready for it.
God, Apollo's broken though. I just to check it.
Apollo's too much.
He's the god of healing, medicine, archery, music, poetry, and of course the sun. Since his chariot pulls the sun, he makes days go by.
Yeah.
Like, man, Apollo's broken, man. I didn't know Apollo was so broken.
But he's known for music.
Because he's got
you gotta
the little
pick
harp.
one.
Sure.
But then now, like, I think every single time we see a new magic user now, and we probably have to go back to old magic users, but now we're gonna have to peg them to a Greek god at this point, right? Until we get the next god. Like the second god will be a big one for the storytelling because is it Greek gods or is it gods? So will we get a Thor?
Now you get a Norse, then you get a Hindu,
or will we get Zeus and lightning god in Greek?
I think
right?
it makes way more sense to just have multiple pantheons involved.
It's easier to deal with.
It's easier to deal with, because then you don't have to like link anything narratively. Like when you isolate yourself to like one pantheon, then now you're kind of like you don't have to, but you kind of have a pressure on yourself to make sure that the things that you do fit in with lore to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I will say though that Greek is probably the most flexible, right? There's so many gods. The god of booze and Dionysus, and the god of death, and the god of darkness, and god of chaos, and all these gods, right? Like, so there's a lot of them in the Greek pantheon. So it's probably not the worst decision if you're going to stick with one pantheon.
Yeah. And Greek is the most popular, so like the names that you drop will be widely recognizable by anybody. Who reads it, you know what I mean? So
exactly.
Yeah, but what you were saying earlier about the other like Judeo-Christian influence there is on the on the story does make it feel like why don't we just open it up? Why don't we just open it up?
Multiple.
Especially because it's like I do kind of agree with what Noxie is saying. It's like if you are going to stick with one pantheon, then you do, I feel like, have at least some obligation to weave that lore in continuously forever in the story.
Because that just enhances the fact that you're using the references in the first place. So
it would enhance it greatly.
So as an author, there's that pressure there. It's like, well, if I'm going to stick in Greek, then it's going to make it way better if I tie the lore into anywhere that I can. You know what I mean? So it feels like a missed opportunity if you don't do that. That's where I said the pressure might come in. But either way, multiple pantheons or just Greek, we got ourselves gigantic world building in this fucking chapter, bro. Like this is massive. These concepts are huge.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you heard it here first. Apollo is the defense for Ares Black Partisan. Come on, man. Margaret.
You heard Hercules related to
and you heard Hercules
here.
Yes, absolutely. Come on, man.
Wild.
Smite players. Smite.
Kiko.
Yeah.
It's I would love it, of course. I would like it, still though, to be one pantheon and for the lore to be woven within the story. I feel like that's still harder to do, and I think we won't. I don't think that's the case. That's why it's like, what if we get a different god of music that Margaret could be? That would be fine. But like, I mean,
I don't know. Hercules, Orphan, Mash, Orphan.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it would be sick. It'd be super sick.
Super sick.
Especially because Zeus being the king of gods and Zeus being Hercules' dad, like, and how Hercules was discarded because Zeus cheated on Hera in order for Hercules to be born, and so he had to live in a like isolated state away from Hera because Hera would just come and kill him. Like, it does fit very well.
Stop,
That's
bro! It
why
totally fits so well. Oh my god!
It does. So we'll see. I like it.
Very excited.
I love it. All
right. Okay. Getting into Black Clover, chapter 278, Undying Bodies. And I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, I loved this chapter so much. You know what I mean? And a lot of it has to do with the Jack flashback. I feel like that's pretty much where all of my praise for this chapter kind of comes from. And we'll talk about that, I mean,
his application of his slicing magic was super tight
the
too.
application of the slicing magic for sure, but I mean, like, obviously, you know what I mean, like, I want to try to stray away from like the regular rants that I go on about how formulaic the conflicts feel inside of Black Clover, and I just want to and that's true still, even inside of this amazing chapter. You know what I mean?
I also, I literally called this chapter, right? I literally said the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to have the Dante fight, and they're going to overcome the devil's gravity magic somehow, rendering it useless, right? And we literally did that here. I'm just like, yes, fucking did it, baby. The cover here, it's gross. It's like, what are they, like dead? Like, is this like dead bodies in like a muddy, bloody? I don't know.
It's a very weird color for blood. I mean, it's a realistic color for blood. You know what I mean? Like blood that's
like old blood,
old blood. You know what I mean?
Dried blood.
I get that. You know what I mean? But like I feel like for fiction and for like things like this, especially inside of a more colorful genre like shonen, the blood, especially in like a page like this, should maybe look a little newer. So that, like, I saw somebody on Twitter, like, I was like, it's there's shit everywhere. It's just shit. You know what I mean? I'm
it's chocolate.
And I'm just like, oh no, come on, you gotta know. You know what I mean? But either way, I like the cover. I made a joke saying that Tabata wants to be Fujimoto.
I do too.
You know what I mean? But
yes, it's obvious. It's so you want to be Fujimoto here.
So
like,
maybe he did it because Chainsaw Man Part 1 has ended. It's kind of a homage. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
But
I'm just so biased against Black Clover that I think any reference is like you're trying to be cool and you're not.
But like, isn't where like the blood is darkened around Vanica a little? It looks like they tried to give her nipple, like Tabata like tried to give her nipples too. It's just like questionable, like how the darkened blood is on there.
We got blood.
When I just scrolled by, I saw it at first glance. I'm like, wait, what the fuck is this? And I look, okay.
We got blood on the titties of Xenon and Dante too, but they don't have like superimposed black darkness spots in nipple areas. You know what I'm saying?
But
it makes me uncomfortable. This cover makes me uncomfortable. I'll leave it.
I'm not gonna cap. It's kind of cringe. But hey,
I kind of liked it though, even if it is cringe. I did still kind of
artistically,
like it.
I like fuck with the concept, but I think that the execution was like,
yes.
But I just think the execution just like wasn't there. But going into the actual like chapter,
yes.
This is really fucking cool. I love the Big O reference that we get inside.
Yes, thank you. I was like, this dude looks like fucking Big O.
No, you can say it's a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like I'm like kind of half joking when I say Big O. Showtime. Yeah, action. But yeah, dude, I that was just the first thing that I saw, and I was kind of half joking when I made the comparison on Twitter because I saw everyone was doing Optimus Prime and Gundam comparisons and whatnot. So I was
dude, I love that you said Big O because I thought Big O. I was like, I said Gundam, right? Like like the one of the beefier machine arms or whatever Gundam, right? But also looks a lot like Big O for sure. You can't deny that.
Yeah. But I love this mode. So we do like get confirmation on kind of like what that. We said cow, we said bull, but equus is like a horse term.
Horse,
Equidae.
So that's cool. That's cool to get kind of confirmation on that.
But why is it a fortress if it's a horse or a donkey or a zebra or some?
I think it's Chinese zodiac horse, which if you remember Jackie Chan Adventures, the horse gave you defense, I believe.
Okay.
The horse talisman.
I loved that show. Yeah. I do not remember that.
I don't remember it either.
Or actually, wait, no, I'm tweaking. Adventures. The horse gave you speed. My bad.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like yeah.
My bad.
That's what you would think a horse would give you.
I'm
tweaking. But here is the first time I think we've gotten a
characteristic.
Characteristic. A devil mode union. Okay, Equus, obviously horse. Characteristic toughness, like and horses are tough, right? I mean, like they're beefy animals, whatever.
Workhorse,
right? Yeah, workhorse, like a Clydesdale kind of thing. So, like, I don't know. I think it makes sense.
Oh no, it was healing and regeneration for the horse talisman inside of Jack and Chain Adventures. So the talisman heals every injury or sickness, which I guess can be translated to defense if you wanted to go there. It's loosely related. Health and healing HP is loosely related to defense, so
I'm sure
there's probably some other reference though. Like I'm really trying to link this.
Adventures,
I'm really trying to link
very
this to
clear.
Oh, Black Clover audience is probably like, "What are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
Let it go. Just let it go.
So I like that we're talking about Morris some more, Morris's sorcery science, because it's like, hey, man, hit me with some sorcery science. I'm going to be happy, especially if we dig a little deeper into that.
Yeah. Morris is like that dude from Game of Thrones on the Targaryen side, like the mad scientist dude that helped with, Cersei and all of her endeavors. That's not. Any Game of Thrones fans out there?
That's not for me.
If that makes sense, let me know. If I'm tweaking, let me know too.
I didn't finish Game of Thrones. It was too much. For me personally.
Yeah. Someone's gonna help me out with that in the comments. I'm confident.
Yeah. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right.
Yeah.
No, but definitely very good. I was actually very happy with the battle generally, right? You could be pretty upset with cutting gravity as a concept, but at the very beginning of the chapter, they say okay, we'll have to gamble on Jack's magic, the magic that cuts things that can't be cut, and yes, usually in so far in the story, it's been I can't cut this material, I can't cut that material, I can't cut this other material that's even more strong than I'm used to, right? But I think it makes total sense when all these characters are getting level ups in their magic to now I'm cutting concepts. I'm cutting a concept.
Tangible things, yes.
Right. Like Yami's already cut dimensions, right? So it makes total sense to me that this, Jack could cut the concept of gravity.
And that's what makes him Yami's rival in the first place.
Right.
You have dimension cutting abilities. I wouldn't be a rival if I didn't have some kind of aspect to my magic that allows me to defend or at least match that kind of damage out.
Yes.
So Jack is Juzo from UQ Holder at this point. Now, once we're at this point, so Juzo and UQ Holder, he is an immortal who stood basically in the same spot, swinging his sword for 500 years until he can cut. Eventually he cuts curses, then he cuts karma, and then he cuts concepts. Concepts is the highest level of slicing within the world of UQ Holder. And he sliced an apple right in front of two immortals that have lived for 1,000 years, and they totally forgot what an apple was and had to go look it up in the dictionary.
Bro, I literally just I've been trying to catch back up in UQ Holder kind of secretly.
Juzo's the tightest.
I just met this dude. I literally just met this dude. I'm on chapter 156 or 157 or something like that. But I literally just met this dude. I don't know everything he can do. But can you repeat the apple thing for me? Because I was trying to look him up when you were saying that, and Nick got his mind blown. So I need to hear that.
But he slices an apple right in front of two immortals that have been around for 1,000 years, right? And they totally forget what an apple is completely and have to open a dictionary and read about an apple to remember what it was. They have to do.
Why?
I don't know. They have to
because he cut the concept of an apple.
Yes, they all forgot about an apple. Yeah, everybody, even immortals that are 1,000 years old, know what an apple is.
They've obviously seen an apple. They're so old. Obviously, you know what a fucking apple is.
Oh my god, dude, UQ Holder.
Yeah,
damn.
Super crazy story, definitely.
Wow.
But this is what the problem though with that is man, that's so broken. It's Jack feels like now the most broken character, and maybe this is a desperation situation. Hey, maybe he didn't know he could cut gravity per se, and now I could cut some other things that are intangible.
Yeah,
but
I don't even think he thought about cutting gravity. I think that this is just a fight or flight response from his magic, trying to keep him alive, you know what I mean? And
cutting through what is in his way.
So that he can go back to a comfortable state. I think this is a trigger from his body,
Yeah, and also, like, I did say cutting through the concept of gravity, but I do think because gravity is a field,
it's just less tangible than
he's just cutting through the gravitational field, like severing the gravity, like say this shape is this sphere is attracted to this sphere, but I cut in between them, and now they're no longer attracted to each other like strings, say.
So it's not cutting through concepts
less broken.
yet. It's not cutting through concepts just yet, because a gravitational field is still physical.
It's a stepping stone in that direction.
It's just less tangible than like
intangible.
Steel. It's, you know what I mean? But it's still, you know, in the physical space. You know what I mean? It's not like it's cutting an idea in half, like an apple, you know, or anything like that.
So, does anybody feel like there's too many commoners reaching the top tier of Black Clover story? Like, it feels like Jack shouldn't have been a commoner.
I personally, you want to know what?
I like the story, but like, it's like, why commoner again?
Yeah, the story and the execution were perfect, but I really don't think that Jack should have been a commoner too. You know what I mean?
Let me read you some commoners.
It's fine. I
guess read them, but I do have a response for this for the record.
So Luck is a commoner. Gray is a commoner. Gordon and his whole Agrippa family are commoners. Let me see here. There's a bunch of them, and and then there's peasants, of course, too. I guess peasants and commoners are a little different because like Zora and Magna are technically peasants and not commoners.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Commoner is middle class, peasant is low class, and then noble is high class.
So my
Voltos, like so many of the bad guys were commoners too, like Voltos and like it's like
it makes more sense for bad guys to be commoners though.
Like Rodris, there's so many of them. It just seems like there's too many towards
the two. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but now say like you can say there's two major benefits to being a noble in Black Clover, right? One, like your genetic mana pool, right? Like you just have a better mana pool because your bloodline is of people who have a high mana pool. Second, obviously, is training. Like obviously, you have access to mentors, teachers, tutors that can help you unlock your magical potential. But I think how I would explain this is that one of the major themes in Black Clover, as we were just talking about, is the noble peasantry, fighting, infighting, right? And so people like this, Jack, for example, 50 years ago in Black Clover time, he would never be a magic knight. He would be explicitly banned from being a magic knight because he's a commoner, because he's a peasant or whatever, right? You would never be allowed to be a magic knight. But now we're like the arrow of history skews, towards justice, right? Like eventually these societies do let in commoners and peasants into the Magic Knight society. And so I think what we're seeing here is like kind of like the supernova in One Piece scenario where like a bunch of people that like were oppressed now have the opportunity to show their true colors, to show their true potential, and it just so happens that nobles ain't all that shit, right?
So was Jack always known as a commoner? Has this been dialogue related to Jack beforehand? I
don't think we've ever seen this.
Yeah, if not, then I feel like this is like, and this is just me personally.
Right.
I feel like if you were going to drop commoner, now is as good of a time to do it, as ever. But I personally feel like we could have gotten commoner dialogue for Jack earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think that it's necessarily too late, but it definitely, now that you bring it up, I was just so like enamored by the storytelling and the art during his flashback that I just didn't even think about, is this the first time that we've heard this about Jack? But if it is, that does feel kind of late to me. But the actual flashback itself, I feel like Tabata is using symbolism and metaphors and references that we don't see too often. You know what I mean? The mantis, metaphor that we see in the illustration is beautifully used throughout the flashback. I love seeing Jack as a novice just making a dagger out of his magic. You know what I mean? I love seeing all of this. This makes me feel like this was a character that Tabata clearly cares about deeply, had big plans for, was waiting to show us this kind of stuff for, you know what I mean? So that's always going to feel great. But I just feel like I haven't felt this, I haven't felt this much appreciation for Tabata's storytelling inside of his character work since like Mario Leona got fleshed out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like this surpasses that just because of the visual enhancements inside of the mantis metaphor and the bear, and you know, and this bear has, you know, illuminated areas that probably show Jack his weak points so that he can cut through them. You know what I mean?
Sure,
I think that this is his magic showing him where to cut. You know,
the neck,
the best places to cut.
the tendons in the wrists to obviously. You know, make it so they can't swing his arms or whatever. Yeah, I love that. This is great in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
And so another cool thing about this is the fact that, okay, you have like the information from the father, like don't fight anything that you can't beat, basically. And you know, him, like the symbolism going through it, like you have the mantis that kills the butterfly right there as he's killing the rabbit.
Yes.
And then you go to the next page and it's like the bird is eating the mantis, and that's representing his dad being killed, basically, right? But mantis fight birds back and can they fight things a lot bigger than themselves. Like mantis actually stand up to things that are way bigger than them all the time. And birds are their main prey, right?
Yes.
Or their main
predator.
The main predator, And so they do actually fight fucking birds back and can survive against a bird attack. So like it makes so much sense to have this, like that's much deeper than you like on surface level that you think, and this is perfect for his character, you know, like this was definitely well planned and well thought out. The commoner thing makes Nick makes me feel a lot better about it. It's just that I think it's like almost it kind of feels like a flavor of the week or something kind of thing for Tabata. Like, oh, any new big character that we're going to bring up here now is going to be a commoner, right? Like, and I know that's not the case, but it's like Yami, you know, is technically a commoner or whatever the fuck you want to call him, a foreigner.
That you have like when Conqueror's Hockey is introduced in One Piece, and then you never heard about it before, but then multiple people start showing up that have it. You start worrying. Yo, is this going to be overused like, you know, Bankai? You know what I mean? Bankai was so rare and now everyone has one. Conqueror's Hockey was so rare and now everyone has one. So when you see something like this, it probably makes you think. So everyone that is going to be drastically significant to the narrative is going to end up being a commoner or some kind of underdog in some regard related to nobility, you know what I mean? Which I don't think would be a bad thing. Like, as it's not like if that was a thing in Black Clover, it's not as bad as everyone getting a Bankai. It's not as bad as everyone getting imagine everyone getting a domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Right.
It's I don't think like this is obviously.
Well, you're saying everybody's getting Conqueror's Hockey. I just want to make sure that you're not actually saying that, because that's
no. That's not the truth.
Okay. Just for our viewers to clear that up.
Oh, sure.
If
everybody
in One Piece fan, for the record, that is hyperbole. It's not actually true.
Yes, definitely.
A very reasonable small number of people have hockey. Conqueror's Hockey.
Yeah, it's just the worry. That that
and
rare trait that you introduce in your
Jack's personality is that of a commoner. So it's not even like
that makes sense.
Exactly. It all makes
Plus,
sense.
Yami's
like it's
obviously not royalty. So sure,
yeah, he's a foreigner commoner. Or maybe he's a foreigner. Maybe he's foreign royalty. I don't know. But either way,
in this country, he's commoner.
Now you can go into the rivalry, you know, a couple different ways. You can either go Yami is a commoner, Jack is royalty, and there's the dichotomy that helps fuel the rivalry, or you can go it makes sense that Jack is also a commoner because Yami is too. You know what I mean? So
sure. Yeah.
But wow, it feels really good. Jack has among the best inner monologue here of all time. Like, to me, like this is so tight, like just so tight, which was so good because the thing is the monologue is all peak until you get to the dialogue at the end. It's like, man, that fell flat. And that's the translator's fault, not Tabata's fault. But don't mess with insects is a corny choice to me, bro.
Yeah,
like
that was very
it's
corny.
Like, and we're trying to we're trying to yo. It's like, do you feel like Jack would say yo? I mean, I don't know. Maybe he has been in his character and I've been missing it, but it's just like that feels like, hey, we need to throw a little urban flair in here, and
or maybe because yo is like so commonly used in surprising situations where the opponent is taken aback and then the attacker is confident, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's crack it. So it could be that, because we see that all the time too. But you are spitting though in regard to his internal monologue throughout the flashback.
Yeah, that was so well.
I feel like usually with Tabata, he goes for more straightforward, like, you know, where everyone talks in inspirational quotes that you see on Facebook memes and shit. Almost is like what the dialogue feels like in Black Clover most of the time, when people are really, you know, getting in their psychology and like feelings bag, you know, when characters are really feeling in Black Clover, it feels like that. But Jack Like this feels very poetic. It feels very, you know, it feels very symbolic, very metaphorical. You know what I mean? Which is a different way to express emotion, I feel like, in Black Clover than what we see usually. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
I like I love everything about this. Yeah.
The interesting thing to me about Jack's new ability is that it is unnamed.
Yeah.
Right? So when you know you like is beloved by mana and like goes like super hard, like now he's like full crown, he's like, you know, whatever Borealis or Boreal, you know, whatever. He has a name for his attack, and then when you know, Rose Whip Lady, you know, like she has her Queen of Thorns, right? What's her name?
Queen of Briars.
Charlotte.
I was like
Charlotte.
Christine. No, it's not
name.
Christine. Yeah. Charlotte. When Charlotte, she has a name for her technique. Jack doesn't have a name for his technique. I think it's very interesting.
That is cool.
Yeah.
It's
I just thought of something else too.
He's just cutting shit.
And we'll probably we could go into the next chapter, like finishing that attack with a name. You know what I mean? Like the next chapter starts with the name of the attack and like finishing the sequence. You know what I mean?
It's possible.
That. And they just wanted to give him the line of dialogue instead of the name of the attack. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But,
that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. But it is that is cool though. Yeah.
Another thing too that I remembered now, just kind of thinking about it, kind of quick look, but I didn't really get a definitive answer. But regardless, I was remembering like praying mantis, like fist, right? The fighting style, the Chinese fight was meant to fight bigger opponents, right? Like it was designed to fight bigger opponents.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm pretty confident that that's like why it was created. I could be wrong, but like
because it
I just remember
specifically
too
attacks vital points. You know what I mean? Like drastically vital points in really quick succession, right? Which plays into his magic detecting him, telling him where the weak points.
That is so sick. I didn't think about that, but I think that's true. I think now that you say that with the bear, like that bright light on the bear or whatever, that's so sick.
So
wow.
There's definitely there's some deep thought on his character. He definitely clearly loves Jack and has planned and has big plans for Jack. Of course, right? But you feel like there's more love in Jack than most of his.
Well, I mean, there's more love in Yami than anyone else, so his rivals naturally get more, passion probably and attention than most characters.
But it's like think about like Fuego Leon, right? Like he even though he's like a big captain and was kind of like touted as like the best captain really at first, he's just been so put on the back burner. Like Nozel is a piece of shit, but like whatever, he's supposed to be cool now. It's like you figure like those kind of guys may have gotten as much love, and maybe they will later in the story than like Jack and even Charlotte. Charlotte it gets a good amount of focus on her, and I'm sure there's symbolism we've missed with her in her last chapter, but I just feels very good. I just
want to throw in that as an author, you can have a character that you favor that isn't drastically important to the plot. You know what I mean? Like Nanami, I think Gege said was their favorite character in Jujutsu Kaisen for whatever reasons. You know what I mean? But obviously Nanami feels very much like a very secondary character, despite what he's done in the series. So I think that Jack is very clearly a deeply loved character by Tabata. You know what I mean? I think that the fact that even despite that, Tabata made them a commoner, barely uses them in the story until right now, is really cool. That you can withhold characters that you love so much more than others from the story for so long. It shows discipline and control, I feel like, because I don't know, if I was an author and I had a cold-blooded ass character, you know what I'm saying, that was always going to be there, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, I want to give that character to the world as often as possible, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's cool,
definitely
that Jack is the character that he is. But
absolutely.
Wow. Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about because we didn't even talk like we barely talked about Noct. We talked about his design, but I think that his character shined a lot in this chapter too, in regard to how he tries to provoke the potential or invoke the potential out of Jack by baiting him. Right. Now this isn't like, holy shit, let's spend 20 minutes talking about it or anything like that, but it is great for Noct's character because we see morale boosts in the opposite form so often in shonen storytelling, where it's like, you got this, I believe in you, you're great, don't let this get you down, remember who you are, uplifting kind of dialogue like that. But Noct is so sinister in his character, and everything is so shady and underhanded that even when he likes someone and is trying to help them, he has to do it in a very shisty, you know what I'm saying, like, takes the darkest routes possible to the positive outcomes. You know what I mean?
And maybe,
yeah.
I was saying, well, maybe, I mean, it's not even that. Maybe it's just calculating and knows what he needs to do to get what he needs out of each individual character, right? Like this fits Jack. It's like you should talk shit to Jack, right? Like saying, hey, you got this, buddy, isn't going to motivate Jack to get up. It's you're a little bitch, right? Like that's what motivates
but now
Jack.
Picture the opposite situation. What if it's a character that needs positive moral reinforcement? Can you picture Noct doing that? You know what I mean? Maybe facetiously. You know what I mean? Maybe Topic could write it in the Noct way of encouragement.
Yeah, maybe not all hearts and rainbows, but I feel like he would give his version of that.
Noct version, yeah.
But yeah,
which would probably be regular words of encouragement, but just with a Noct face attached to it. That very ominous Noct vibe that a page can get just from his expression. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, no.
That was good.
Great point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Okay, well, I think I'm good. You guys good?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right. Getting into My Hero Academia, chapter 297, Tartarus. Now, when you said, Kiko, on the My Hero Academia Paranormal Liberation Front War Aftermath one-shot episode that we just did, you said that you think we're going right to Tartarus now in the next chapter. Now, when you said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense given the end of the previous chapter. But just like what I know of like manga storytelling, shonen storytelling.
Yeah, you could go all over the place,
They like to leave you on that and then pick up at an entirely different area more times than not. So in me, I was like, yo, that would be cold, but that's not happening. Boom, that's what this chapter is. I was like, what the fuck?
This first page of this chapter might be my very favorite first page of anything I've ever read in my entire life, bro.
So
I knew you saw when I messaged you. I sent you the link to the scanlated chapter, and I was like, "This is everything. It's doing everything that he wanted it to do, bro." How do you feel?
I saw this first page and just got goosebumps and damn near shit my pants reading. I was just like, "Whoa, this is what I want. Like I need." And it's like I say how many times I don't give a fuck if you hit me with the fucking big fucking text wall. Just do it. Just give me. And obviously not all the time, but like you when it makes sense. This made a lot of sense to do this to hype you up.
Talk about everything. The Heart and Minds party. Walls of text explaining Tartarus. Like actual like Tartarus, processes and day-to-day life of the employees, which is a big deal, right? Because we see that these workers are talking about talking about these villains in a very not okay way.
Calling them animals and questioning humanity.
This is a big deal.
They even say that they get human rights violation accusations against them, right? Like, and you can see why they clearly think that these inmates are like subhuman, right? Like they're not even people. They're like the only reason that we even that they're even able to make it in society is that our society is so fucked up from and quirks. That's
deep.
I want to say this. I do want to say this.
The quirks have warped our standards for humanity. Quirks have warped what is humanity now. Like that's.
Now, the dialogue that we have inside of the workers of Tartarus is only a big deal to us and like a huge red flag about like how fucked up this society is because of Kohei fleshing out this is supposed to be black and white morality. So you have these white side characters talking very black side about these inmates. But these are mass murderers, rapists, who knows what, you know what I mean? So if we were these people and we, like you put yourselves in the shoes of these people, obviously you don't want to talk about humans the way that they are, but I mean, like, you think about it and it's like, you're surrounded by the worst people ever all the time. It's not crazy that they think this way about these people, but it sticks out to us because this is supposed to be a superhero story. You're not supposed to think like this if you're a good guy. You know what I mean? So I just love that.
Even the fact they know they're being fucking monitored, and he still has the gall to say all this when
just
it's like
cops don't care. Turn the body cam off. Who cares if we're getting, you know what I'm saying? Who cares if we're getting,
But he's
this guy's leaving the body.
He's like, let him record.
He's leave the cam on. I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you and let the world see. Fuck it, like it's wild. But I want to talk a little bit about like, so you got this Gaijus or however you pronounce it, and like Bararios and Kotos. There are three Greek gods that were thrown into Tartarus, because Tartarus is an abyss, and they're the 100-handed ones, and that's why they got all them hands. Man,
that's a magic card. That's a magic card.
Yeah,
and one of them, like the Kotus one, right, seems to be an overabundance of drones.
Yes,
right,
drones,
aka hands, right? Like they're your feelers into the world. They're your action. Yeah, exactly. So like, where the two brothers had like multiple arms, very much fits in with the 100 hands thing, but this multiple drones also fits in with that narrative in the same way. And like when I looked that shit up, I also looked like Kotus. I've never heard this before. It's like, oh my god, it's all this like Kotus, Briareus, Gigas, or whatever. Like, oh my god, so
we've
good.
seen this from Kohei already inside of the Yakuza arc. The Hiei Hasaikai, or the 8 precepts of death, were all based on the Buddhist commandments. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We get this kind of lore, this kind of mythological lore woven into My Hero Academia all the time, I feel like,
For sure.
And these are just the two big examples, Tartarus and the 8 precepts. What other things, subtle things, has Kohei thrown in the series that we missed? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely. But did you guys feel like this is like intentionally impel down, right? Like, I mean,
it seems so similar.
I mean, this is common inside of like fictional prisons and like real life prisons in general. I mean, like if a prison break did happen, you would want the most problematic ones to be the farthest away from surface level as possible, so that you can prevent them from rejoining society.
But like having like, 6 wards, 6 floors,
and
like,
but even
there's more
still,
floors than 6, or whatever. Like, so like, he's like down on like what the 10th.
It probably is because this is shonen storytelling. It is Japanese. There is a historical impel down prison that operates the same way. It's easy to say that Tartarus is inspired by that, but I feel like historically inside of just like fictional prisons, you normally see this multi-level.
I mean, underwater prisons. I mean, you have like Alcatraz, right? Like Alcatraz was out on an island. There's island, Rikers Island is still a real prison that's still happening out on an island. But like, do they actually go under sea level and start putting people?
Maybe not in real life. But fictionally, yes, that is a very common prison tactic in fiction to just make your shit super deep and put everyone, the worst people, in the lowest depths of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But still. Crazy.
Man, my favorite win though on this whole chapter is the Hearts and Minds party, man. Like that's so big. Like just that I've been talking about Trumpet and this is your way into the government for so long, and it's just like Hearts and Mind party. They're dissolved because Trumpet was caught, but they still have factions out and they're still doing their shit, And maybe this is like dissolved. Maybe they did have politicians that were serving office, like I was talking on the one shot. Like maybe they were removed from office. Maybe we will see that in the future. I really hope so. Like I really hope it's not just Trumpet being like the only guy in this party. Because why would you mention a whole party? But regardless, like I just felt like, man, I was like, wow.
This has got to be the best case scenario for you because we're getting geopolitical stuff while the action is still going. We thought this was going to be a boring at the table. I thought we were going to get this information from suits at tables in large dialogue chapters, and we still could get that. But to go straight from the direct end of the conflict directly into exactly what you've been asking for while still having action elements tied in has got to be the biggest My Hero W for you like ever. You know what I mean? And, and as someone,
there, man, as soon as we get those the other chapters you were just talking about, as soon as we get those now, that's man, I'm feasting at that point. But
wow. I see a lot of new faces where we see a lot of familiar faces.
Familiar
faces.
Except for that girl. Who's the girl?
Who is that? Yeah.
Well, so that's Chisaki, right? That they released the other one. Who has no arms. His arms are gone.
Saying boss.
Yeah. So that's.
But Chisaki only lost his left hand, didn't he?
Yep.
Or his left arm.
Both of them.
He lost both of them?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Of
you
course
cannot
he
use his quirk. He cannot use his quirk anymore.
Right.
And that's going to be, so like you see him right here already on page 6 you could look at his sleeves. Like even though like one arm's kind of over, that's going to be like the remnants of the left arm. But you can see the right arm. There is no arm in that sleeve, right? And then of course the top is muscular and moonfish.
Muscular and moonfish, bro. It's fucking lit
and then
seeing them, bro.
Kurogiri below. So
didn't see Stain though this chapter because we know that's going to be.
Isn't Stain
yes,
the bottom?
That was my question.
Right
where?
Of 6. bottom on 6, bottom right of 6.
Yep,
that's what I was saying. That was my question. That's what I thought he was staying too.
Sure.
The hair,
yeah.
definitely
the hair. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because that was I felt that too, but I was just like, man,
but
he's a
Stain
little bit
wasn't
more
highlighted,
quirky.
Yeah, he wasn't highlighted,
Yeah.
and you have to show Stain from this perspective so that his hair can cover his entire face.
Yes,
so that you can reveal that it's Stain in the next chapter, probably because he's going to be a pivotal moment in this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
because that's the big question, like whose sides are everybody going to be on, right? Like this is a civil war within the prison of prisoners, and All For One is basically rounding them up like, hey, you want to get the fuck out of here, you better listen to me. But Shigaraki has now taken back control, at least enough of it to have this, what I've been, hoping for too, like this conflict between the two.
Oh my God, I just got. Wait a minute. Can All for One can only take your quirks. He can't bestow them onto other people, right?
Yes, he can.
He can.
Yes.
So All For One represents Apocalypse too. Then, so this is another Western comic book reference that I never even thought about before. Chisaki represents Angel, I guess in this situation, because oh my God, hold on, this is gonna be cold. So Apocalypse can give powers to others because he encountered celestial technology, and celestials are like, the really big, echelon of power in Marvel Comics. It's like, the one above all, living tribunal, big concepts like eternity and infinity and Chronos, and then like the celestials are under them. And the celestials are the reasons why characters even have superpowers in Marvel Comics. And I don't need to go into that right now, but just remember that, because when Apocalypse encounters celestial technology, he gains the ability to basically give himself any power he wants, and also bestow power onto others. So he goes to characters in their weakest moments and says, will you follow me? If you do, I will give you the one thing you can't attain. Warren Worthington is Angel in X-Men. And his mutant power is just flight. He has angel wings.
Yeah, angel wings,
But like, obviously that's a big part of his character. Just go out and fly. You can escape anything. You have freedom. He gets his wings cut off. And now he's like depressed, suicidal. My reason for living is over. Apocalypse approaches him in hospital. Like, I can give you your wings back. Swear your allegiance to me. And then he gives him his wings back, and he goes forward as Archangel with these badass metal wings. Chisaki has no arms, and All For One is right here with the power to bestow abilities to other people.
Like arms.
Yeah, or just a
regenerative
healing factor. You know what I mean? Like whatever abilities he has.
I was totally 1000% on the same page with you, because I feel like he's taking Muscular's quirk and giving it to fucking Chisaki just to rebuild give him his arms back. Because Muscular could regen the arms,
and Muscular's a douche. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
And
he's running with Shigaraki.
Yes,
exactly. That's the thing, is that with Stain is like going to be such the linchpin of this whole thing, and like whose side is he on? Stain is the most important character, I feel like, within this. Bro, like it's gonna be crazy. I'm so hyped for this. And like the other thing too is that fucking Chisaki calls All For One boss right away, right?
Oh,
that's who he's talking about. That's who he's talking to when he gets out of prison, out of his cell. Boss, like, because he runs past the girl and he's like, I need to get to boss right away, right? Like, and Chisaki. In the Yakuza, their boss, his name was only Boss. He was never named, right? Like, they only called him Boss, just like Metal Gear.
So it
like,
could be
boss.
All For One.
All For One was
saying. All For One is the boss of the Yakuza.
He's the true boss, even above that boss, because
the boss that we've seen.
Yes, because he purposely set this all up, Chisaki versus Shigaraki, and them. And another thing is that Chisaki says to Shigaraki, All For One's fall, now, All Might taking him out, now we're vying for who's now in charge of villains across this country, right? And that was basically their whole conflict to start off, Yakuza versus League of Villains. So, like, it just fits too well that All For One was always the true boss, always had some kind of plan, probably, like this was all part of steering Shigaraki towards him stealing the body, which on page 13, this fucking dialogue on page 13 at the top, like, He says, and even if this new body had been perfected, this new body, this isn't the first time he's done this. This is my new body. And even if this was perfected, it wouldn't have helped me really get out of Tartarus unless I coordinated the attacks from the outside and the inside at the same time, which I'm doing through a shared consciousness. Like it just works so good, so tight. Like I just love it so much. And that the fact that this new bot, like this is literally everything I've been saying about this story for the last 6 months, at least, if more. If
and another one to piggyback off what you're saying, you've often said that All for One is the main villain here, even though Shigaraki has seemed to be the parallel to Deku. But here we have an explicit juxtaposition, right?
Yes.
I am going to. This story will be the story of how I became the greatest demon lord of all. Exactly mirroring Deku.
Yes.
Exactly mirroring.
Oh,
so like,
no.
It's almost as if Shigaraki and All for One are competing for who is the main villain against Deku, right? Because Shigaraki obviously does have a lot of interesting parallels to Deku, but like All for One is like really inserting himself in the story as like, no, actually, for the record, I'm the one who's mirroring Deku.
Have you ever seen that? A story that's so intensely set up a generational inheritance on the white and black side. All Might goes to Deku, All for One goes to Shigaraki, but then you'd think that that's just how it plays out. Fine, it's already set up, it writes itself. But you introduce All for One. Yeah, exactly. But then you introduce All for One going, no, this is not generational. It's still me. Even though my perfect generational counterpart is here, and the story would be fine if it went that way. No, Kohei says the villains aren't done there yet. It's not just that. Nothing is as it seems inside of this villainous landscape. When you think you think you've seen it all, Kohei is going to show you a different way to write villains. You know,
I just want to say that that is exactly what I've been saying for well more even than the show. I kept saying like League of Villains does not feel like a good enough League of Villains, right? Like they don't feel like fucking Legion of Doom, right? Like they don't feel like an actual fucking. They feel like a ragtag bunch of fucking street level thugs that got strong because their quirks are really tight and like we finally started coordinating it well. Like I've been saying this for like I swear to God 5 years, for 4 or 5 years.
That's
like
always villains' issues that they try to do everything by themselves. You know what I mean? And they have beef with one specific hero. They always get whooped by that hero. Now all of a sudden that hero is on a team. Now what are you going to do? You have no chance. And the villains never want to team up. It seems like it's always so rare when the villains team up because they're
all too selfish.
They're all too selfish, arrogant, shitty personalities. That's always their downfall. But whenever the villains team up, then you have this whole new situation where it's like, oh my God, we know like what do we do now? You know what I mean? So that proves to me, man, that villains are just stronger at base normally, and they have to be. They should be, because then that creates the conflict that the story needs. But still, it's like exploring this is always so much fun. Yeah,
man. Okay, so like All for One, man, I'm kind of losing my thought here, but like, so no, just keep maybe keep talking. I'll come back to it.
Sure. So a couple of things that I wanted to say while you're thinking of that is that when you said. Now, this muscular situation.
I got it back when you're ready.
Oh, actually, you want to know what? Just go into that.
Okay. Yeah. So the fact that All for One has always been talking about like pieces, right? Like Shigaraki is like he lost those pieces, right? Like, and that's what he was, like, hey, Moonfish and muscular, and even that's the exact same terminology that Chisaki was using too. Like when they came, he's like, hey, you lost these pieces. You lost Moonfish, you lost muscular because you didn't know how to use them, right? Like you didn't know how to utilize these people. And like, so even at the end of this last arc, and they're like, okay, Gigantomachia is out of here. Like we can't get him back, right? Like
Shigaraki lost another piece.
He's losing pieces, right? Like this is just his
pieces.
Exactly. This is just a mindset. This is the mindset of All for One. Like everybody's a piece, everything's a piece, and like this was to kind of just set up. It's like, hey, what pieces are going to be on the board on my side of the chessboard against your side of the chessboard when we're finally here, and you have a chance to regain some of these pieces within muscular and Moonfish, and what there's more even too. Like there's gonna. So this is a whole prison full of prisoners that have fucking crazy quirks, right? It's all going to be like ideology based. Like whoever is agreeing with whoever's ideology is whose side you're going to be on, and like it makes so much sense that we've all. Like this chapter, I felt like has been like one of the biggest missing pieces to Hero for me, and
me too, bro. Straight up.
It's gonna keep going the right direction. Like,
Right.
I
I'm
always
so
felt like with this
happy
last
you're
arc,
eating,
we're
bro.
on the
You're
cusp.
feasting.
We're on the cusp. I knew we were going to get here, and it's just like, man, I'm so excited to see how because Stain is all eyes on Stain as far as I'm concerned, bro.
Fuck up, bro. Stain is probably okay. So
what if Stain takes the ideology from both, like, or his ideology is stronger than both of them, and it's a three-way faction kind of thing,
dude? That's right. Because what are the strongest outlooks we've seen inside of villains? Dabi, Shigaraki, Stain, All for One. These are the four. Regardless of whatever other, now all of the villains and antagonists in My Hero Academia are brilliant, but these are the four. You know what I mean? Chisaki counts too, you know what I mean? But like you can tell that he doesn't feel like he didn't have that same vibe that Shigaraki, Stain, Dabi, and All for One have had. Now Dabi obviously is unrelated to this. That's the Todoroki family. That's whatever. But inside of the main,
has his own
and that will probably get woven
aspirations
back in.
to be on top too, to take over those guys too. Yeah,
I will
definitely.
not put it past Kohei to weave Dabi back into the whole situation as well.
That way.
But as far as like this is the Trinity right here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Shigaraki and Stain are kind of saying the same things, but Shigaraki's approach to it says, "I don't care about anybody."
Yeah.
Stain's approach to it says, I care
about everybody.
I care about everyone, but he's more of a Dr. Doom because he's like, I care about everyone, but like I want to go about it in like the most efficient way possible. Shigaraki is just like everyone is tweaking. Some people are tweaking more than others, but we're just gonna clean sweep everything. You know what I mean? And then obviously All for One is the guy in the chair.
Just me.
You know what I mean? The super
just me.
You know, you know what I mean? But there's still drastically different opinions on the same outlook of society and how to go about it. You know what I mean? Which will wins. And I think that when you're creating this intense of a situation between these two characters, and we've been talking a lot, I feel like throughout this week of Shonen Jump Review, that a lot of mangakas seem to be going, hey, look over here. You know what I mean? While I do something over here. You know what I mean? So, and Kohei obviously is at the forefront of that concept with this All for One situation, which is a twist in its, you know, in and of itself. You know what I mean? So all eyes are on All Might and Shigaraki right now. So this is the perfect time to bring Stain in. Like, no, none of y'all know what the fuck you're talking about. This is what it is. I'm the rightest wrong character in this story. And it's all like it's Stain time. I'm so ready for that. You know what I mean? If that is the case.
I'd be all for that. I'd be all for that.
Well, and I've said a lot of times that the Stain arc was the peak of this story for me. Other than this last arc is in a league of its own.
Obviously,
kind
of.
I would say Stain, My Villain Academia, and Right Now are like my three biggest peaks in the story.
Stain, man, I don't just the fact. I mean, I don't know, just everything Stain was spitting, of course, and it's just like, I mean, just that way that arc was written, just with Ingenium, of course, the passing on of Ingenium and just everything, and then the giant malice at the end against Endeavor was the tightest shit ever, right? Like
that was the first time that we got really big conflict inside of every ideology, because you had people that agree. You know, you had villains that had the same idea but disagreed on how to go about fixing it. You have heroes that have the same outlook but have different ideas on how to go about it. You know what I mean? So it was the first time that you really saw how many different outlooks can exist in a story that tries to paint black and white on totally different sides. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Stain was everything, G.
One more little thing to that too is that the kids had to break the law in order to defend their friends. Like,
that was also a big one.
There's so much, you know, like it's just like positions flipping and stuff like that, right? It's
so
just
many
like, okay,
parts to
technically
involved.
Technically now, Deku, Shoto, they're criminals. You know, they broke the law.
Yeah. So now, how do you feel? Even though they saved the day, they broke the law. Now what?
Exactly. Like it's comes full circle. It's really well done. It's taken a little long to get there. It's probably similar to how I talk. Like I take a long time to get to my point. So like I shouldn't even be mad. But like I just felt like
it's one of those One Piece things. It's one of those One Piece things.
You're right. Correct.
You focus on things in the moment because you have no choice but to.
Yeah.
Because we only.
I didn't read One Piece from fucking 7 chapters. I might have been complaining about it there if I started on chapter 7 of One Piece too. I don't know. Probably not. But
you can criticize things week to week as much as you want, and those criticisms are valid. That is that is the pace you have to conform to, because that's the most frequent we get things. But you also have to be able to understand that even though your criticisms are valid in that moment, once you get the bird's eye view, those opinions can and should change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't completely disregard your week-to-week criticisms. Those were still there. Just because you have the bigger picture now doesn't mean that those go out the window. But don't dig your feet in for week-to-week criticisms now that you have the fucking overall bird's eye view picture. You know what I mean? Like that's what separates a lot of analysts and critics, I feel like, is the ability to do
agree.
that self-awareness is huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I 2 years ago, man, you'd have heard me saying,
man, 2 years ago we were boxing daily in the group chat, bro, like, every day,
shit, bro. Like, maybe more like 3 years ago. I don't know, but it was it feels like 3 years ago, maybe. But like, it was just like, man, I don't know if I'm on board, man. I just don't know. And scans, of course, I always say that scans. We were reading bad scans too,
because you never had an issue with the narrative. We never argued about the narrative.
No,
it was always about, man, this is so tight, but Kohei doesn't know how to draw the tightness at all times. You know what I mean? Like, I want more for these action scenes based on everything else that My Hero Academia is delivering on right now. I totally understand your frustration back then entirely.
Yeah. But here we are, man. One Piece is next. Wow, I'm getting ahead of myself. But Hero, well, and that's the thing. It's what I normally say about One Piece. But Hero is feeling 10 out of 10 right now. Like, it's just feeling. I maybe again jumping a little bit ahead of myself. We'll see how these further chat, but it's like, how could you not be super hyped for like the future of Hero right now?
Absolutely.
Like Hero feels like it's moving in the exact right direction. So right, according to me, my direction that I want it to move in.
AKA
so
right,
I feel
objectively, obviously.
It's the only way it could have gone. If it went any way other than this, it would have been bad.
It's bad. It's bad.
Oh yeah, but are you guys good on
stuff.
Hero?
Yeah. Fantastic.
Great combo, you guys.
Favorite chapter of the week for me.
I think I agree, now that we've had the convo.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting into the piece de resistance. One Piece. Chapter 1001. Battle of Monsters on Onigashima. What's up?
Hey, and I'll just say this.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Start with the cover right away. We're at least okay. It's good that we're back to like rando covers, but I do really I love rando covers and they'll be good always. But it's like, hey, if we can get another cover story, I'll take that too, as long as it's not all in Capone's family house party time. I don't need that anymore. But like, man, I would really like some.
Something
let's go around the world.
Something akin to like a Nell cover story, an Ace cover story, where it actually tells something that clearly matters to the overarching plot. You know what I mean? Like even if it is comedic, you know what I mean? Like,
but like even just jumping around the world and seeing old characters and like what they're doing now, it's like, okay, what's happening at Makino's bar, right?
Yes.
Love that.
What's happening? Yes, exactly. Like just things like that, and maybe they're just arbitrary and don't mean anything, or sometimes they could, hey, I'm gonna look at a news coup.
Really
I'm looking at the newspaper and something's in here. It's like I just, hey man, if start me up another cover story. Those obviously are the top, for me. But rando covers are cool too. Like, and I'm sure we'll go with this for probably a good minute. But it's like since we had like the 999 and we had the 1,000, like we didn't get, and I don't know. Even before that, I just felt like I don't even remember, good covers prior to that for. I mean, seemingly forever because of Capone's story too.
Yeah.
So like,
But getting into the chapter though, so like it's really cool seeing, obviously Kaido acknowledge the damage. You know what I mean? His punch damaged me. But then you have this reaction from the rest of the supernovas here, where Zoro says, "Was that the hockey that he learned from the old man in Wano? What was that hockey just now?" You know what I mean? Blah, 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 blah. So you can assume that Zoro
nobody else has it,
and no one else has it. But this is a story that has told us multiple times that different cultures and people can interpret the same power in different ways. So just because Zoro accessed Ryo through forced activation from Enma,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, that is obviously way different than I learned this hockey from someone.
Yes.
So naturally, if they never had the conversation, Zoro would think this is different than what he did with Enma.
Sure.
That's just something to think about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Zoro definitely has Ryo, or that his island trimming, shit when he first used Enma wasn't real. Like, I'm not saying any, whatever.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's so vague at this point that, like, loosely, interpreted lines of dialogue insinuating a variety of different things depending on how you interpret it is not hard confirmation of anything.
Yep.
And I see a lot of people arguing about this line of dialogue on the timeline. Obviously, agenda pushers are like, Zoro doesn't have Ryo, Kid doesn't have Ryo, and it's like, well, they just don't know that it's the same thing that Luffy does. And sure, you can argue that they should know that at this point, but at the same time, it's like we've seen mantra to Haki, we've seen, all types of shit, you know what I mean, like this in the story. So
I would say I'm slightly on the other side of the coin of that. I would say like if they are seeing that they could damage Kaido, well, it's like, what did Kid learn while he was in prison? Like, because he was doing weight training, I guess, effectively. He didn't have Ryo training, but like he was in there training. I don't know, maybe he could have figured it out, but like he already lost against Kaido, so he didn't have Ryo then, for sure.
Right.
And I mean, Killer and Zoro both hit him dead in his neck, and you get a little, they hit him together, a tandem attack, and then it's like dented in, but he's just boom, and it's like it didn't even affect him. So it's like
it could be a situation to where just having Ryo isn't enough. Maybe you need a certain level of Ryo to still get through Kaido.
That makes sense.
So they could have Ryo. Now it's hard to think that Zoro trimming the coastline, what I mean, enough, with Enma isn't enough. But at the same time, he says, I need to access a little bit more of Enma.
Draw more.
This is where I'm thinking. You have that scene where he first uses it. It draws out way too much power. It makes him skinny.
Yes.
He eats it. He regains his strength and goes, once I master this, I'll be cool. Now that he has it in a more manageable space, obviously when he swings Enma, he's not trimming the coastline anymore and shrinking and atrophying his arm ridiculously. So now he's just saying, okay, I need more of what Enma did back then. Now.
Exactly.
He's got it in a more manageable, space to where it doesn't do drastic damage every time he swings it without him knowing.
And then right after these reactions, I love Kaido's internal monologue kind of asking, how high will your ceiling go?
Yeah, there's an argument about the fan scan versus the official scan on this, because the fan scan, he's belittling Luffy and only talking about himself. When he says in the official scan, how high is your ceiling going to go, while having the montage of everyone behind him, it's obviously an acknowledgement of power. It's an uncertainty inside of Kaido on how strong Luffy actually is. Whereas in the fan scan, I think he said something similar to like, you really think you can beat me with that power or something like that?
Oh, no way.
It was very self-contained to just Kaido thinking Luffy thinks he's stronger than me. How dare you? That's way different than this.
I'll throw another piece of evidence for me anyway. And this is the bottom of page 3. So he goes from looking at Luffy and seeing behind him Odin, Whitebeard, Roger, Rocks, right? Like people he respects, right? Yes. Then he's like, hey, Straw Hat, smile.
Yeah.
Thunder Bagua, baby.
Yeah.
He's excited. He's like, oh damn, like finally someone who can maybe keep up with me. Let's try it out. Thunder Bagua time. Bam! And he's happy about it. He's like, all right, nice work. You did it. You didn't get one-shotted by me again, right? Like I think he is highly respecting Luffy right now.
I agree entirely with that. The way that I interpreted this was, how high will your ceiling go? Hey, now he's picturing Odin, Shanks, Rocks, everyone that he respects. These people all can damage me and deserve to.
Yes.
Luffy just damaged me. Is it a lucky shot? Let me see. You know what I'm saying? Boom, Thunder Bagua. He's trying to confirm that Luffy is not on par with these people by throwing the same attack that one-shotted him out of his final form the last time they fought. You know what I mean? So that's how I interpreted it is, no, I have to be wrong because you lost to this last time, so I'm going to throw it at you again. You know what I mean? Like, you're not as tight as these people. Let's test that. Let me confirm that by throwing this attack. That's how I interpret it. But I like your, because you have additional confirmation of it on the next page. Very good, boy. You won't let the same one hit you dead on twice. So I definitely 100% switch my subscription your outlook on it, but that is definitely. And now another thing. So on page 4, after he hits him with the Thunder Bagua, we get a panel of Luffy like rolling around and like taking the damage. I feel like this is the perspective is so dynamic. I feel like these are panels that we don't see from Oda as often anymore. And I always talk about the comparison of like New World art versus Grand Line art, and how I feel like Oda is in, you know, a situation where he can't really utilize all of those illustration techniques that he used to do back in the day, where he could take up more of the page with action. Whereas now he's trying to get the story finished quicker, so most of the page has to be dedicated to dialogue and exposition. So you don't get dynamic paneling like this. Like this is very like this. It's cool. Yeah, this panel is cool where he's taking the damage because it shows Luffy's fighting style on defense. This is very much how Luffy reacts to getting hit. You can see his face as he's rolling. He's like, you know, he very much so grabs damaged parts all the time and says, ow, that hurts. You don't see characters do that all the time. A lot of characters get hit and just ignore the damage. It's still there, but they don't acknowledge it. Luffy very much so goes, ow, all the time. You know what I mean? So it's cool to see his fighting style on defense as much as offense still at this point in the story. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So let's see here, but yeah, only 5 people capable of fighting. You know, which is saying that Big Mom can't fight him, right? Like he'll beat Big Mom's ass. That's what that says, right?
No, hell no. He's talking about strictly like, okay, I understand
5 people who can damage him,
right? Sure.
There's only 5 other people he knows.
There's no way he doesn't respect Big Mom as a formidable opponent.
I'm not saying respect her, and he could, and there could be like a devil fruit fight against where maybe Big Mom's devil fruit can do something to Kaido in some
like
whatever.
will and hockey. Yes, and your physical capabilities.
Ryuo, you punched me and I took a hit from you, and I took damage. And it's like, maybe Big Mom is just such a stalemate because Big Mom doesn't fucking take no damage either, right? Like, and you need Ryuo probably to hurt her, and Kaido can't really use Ryuo like that. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say, but like it just, you know, I guess it doesn't mean that for sure. I guess because it's like Big Mom standing right next to him. So like, why do you have to put it in the montage behind Luffy? You know, I guess or whatever, But I don't know.
I think maybe it could also just be like Big Mom is there, so she doesn't need to be in the montage. You know what I mean?
And I maybe even got to rescind that too, because it's like Garp is alive. What the fuck are you talking about? Garp will beat your ass.
Exactly.
Right now.
This is definitely not everybody capable of arming. This is probably just the ones that he reveres the most.
I think so. That's how I
Anybody who thinks that this is literally everyone in the series who could possibly damage Kaido, it's like, I get it, and I understand that.
I don't think it's damage anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think it's damage anymore. I think it's fate changers, right? Or fate people who are like, because I mean, even with Rocks there, you know, Odin, it's like some of them are, I mean, obviously Goldie, Roger, and Zebek D Rocks are D's, but the other 3 are not D's, you know, like, and it's like, there's no way you wouldn't include somebody like Garp in this if it was something like who can actually fight me and damage me. Like, Garp threw away his chance to be like a true monkey or a true D or whatever by being a Navy, you know, or Marine, whatever.
Sure.
So like, I don't know, maybe that's what it is. It's more about people who
share the same outlook just as much as people who inherit wills of others.
Well, they alter fate. Like their fate alters by the fact that everything is.
They challenge fate.
They challenge fate. They are.
They do it really well. They're super high level fate challengers.
Yeah.
Yo, how about Zoro cutting through? How about Zoro cutting through fucking?
When he says Foxfire style, I'm like, what?
Now this is tight because obviously Zoro has been talking to Kinemon since they met on Punk Hazard.
I knew this would happen since Punk Hazard.
Exactly. And I'm not saying
that he would get it, but would you ever think? But exactly. But did you ever think it was going to be used specifically this way because of Big Mom? Like, no, of course not. There's no way to think that.
Here's the thing for me. So it's like, obviously, now I'm not going to say obviously because we don't know what Oda off screens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, clearly Kinemon did not teach Zoro this move.
Agreed.
Zoro asks him explicit questions about his fighting style.
And that's it.
And Zoro, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Is that Zoro has interest looks at the ability, sees it done, asks whatever questions he needs to, and then does the ability. This is what the number one swordsman should be able to do. People who are upset about this, shut up. This is
you're
what
not
you
following
want
the
Zoro
best
to do.
swordsman narrative.
Yes,
he's going to be the best swordsman.
This is what he should be able to do.
He should be able to look at any sword style and be like, okay, maybe ask a question or two, like, what about this? And
now,
then do it.
Now, if this
I didn't think that's where the anger would come from. I was just saying, because when I'm seeing it, I was like, well, because he, since Punk Hazard, they had like really explicit dialogue about Foxfire style in this, and it's like
now Kinemon could have extensively explained the Foxfire style to Zoro.
I don't think so.
But still, even if he extensively explained it, you did not physically show him the form. Like you didn't physically train this person. Conversations can only do so much. That shows a lot from Zoro. You know what I mean?
I just don't know why people would be mad that he did this. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, because people don't like when they're not paying attention and then new things happen that they can't explain. So they want to say that it's bad writing because they didn't comprehend it. That's just how people are. But what this does is, at least to me, is it tells me that if the Foxfire style was something that was magical or something that was a Kekkei Genkai of some kind, you know what I mean? That's only for Kinemon, then it would be very weird that Zoro would be able to look at it, have a conversation, and be able to do it. But what this does is it tells us that this is a purely like physical phenomenon that's happening here, even though you can't really damage Prometheus or Zeus or any of Big Mom's homies, except for Brook, which makes sense because he has soul damage. So like Kinemon cutting through fire, that has to be in the same realm of phenomenon as Brook doing soul damage and you exclusively being able to cut fire. So you would think that there was a magical element there. But if Zoro is able to copy it this easily, then that says that it's kind of a physical, maybe spiritual, fighting spirit related thing, which plays into Ashura. It all plays into itself, you know what I mean? And as much as people flame Oda for having such a vague, or not as explained as people want it to be inside of hockey at this point, you know what I mean? Doesn't mean that Oda doesn't have a plan for all of this stuff. It just doesn't make sense to you right now, and you want it to make sense because you're arguing about it. So you say this is a bad energy system because it doesn't give me all of the information I need to argue it effectively. But this is a story going at the author's pace. He can drop one chapter whenever he wants to that perfectly explains all of the power in One Piece. If he wanted to just hit us with straight text, he can fucking do that if he wanted to. But he's giving it to us at the pace he wants. You know what I mean? So just wait for it because it all links. You know what I mean?
It definitely does. And I mean, I do kind of want to talk about, physical feats a little bit, because like in One Piece, but in One Piece, it's like you're saying,
physical
like,
feats
honestly,
matter though.
They do, but like you can only take some of them, so far because of just how the story writing works. It's like, like you can have Luffy get one-shotted here, right? Like, or not here, but like before, and then now he's not even in Gear 4. He used, observation hockey. I mean, there was that part too, but like, so it's still showing like, because Luffy after image basically behind fucking Big Mom and Kaido standing there to go fucking help Kinemon or talk to Kinemon, right? So it's like, when you have that as like the groundwork of you got here, it's like, okay, he's got Ryuo and he's faster. They can't even see him or whatever. But it's like, no, that's not really true because, okay, Kaido gets back up and has just as fast of a speed feat really against Luffy as he always did. And so like that's not even the case. Really, you can't really take a lot from that. But that's kind of also what I'm going with Zoro here, because Zoro looks like he's like Soru, right? Like it looks like he's using Soru a little bit, like just the way that the artistry is. It's showing, kind of after imagery. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's something to mention, but yes, I do not think anybody should be getting so hung up on what exactly happens on this. I like to talk about it. It's fun to talk about, but like declaring anything definitively out of this stuff is really tough.
It's like
really tough.
Oda's storytelling is going to be vague until he doesn't want it to be vague anymore. Like that's the thing, is that you have to deal with the vagueness. You know what I mean? Like, and saying that his storytelling is poor because the whole thing isn't fleshed out for you when you want it to be is frustrating, but at the same time it adds a whimsical nature to the story that feels very One Piece at this, as frustrating as it can be at times when you really want to explain phenomena that are happening in the story. At the same time, it's not deviating away from its core. You know what I mean? Like One Piece is a very whimsical story. You know,
I was still questioning, like, what is so confusing about this chapter?
Man, you guys aren't on Twitter as much as me, so I understand why it's so confusing
Not
for you
One
guys.
Piece.
And I try to keep my like Twitter feelings up separate from, but it's just when you're on Twitter as much as me, it's hard not to bring up Twitter because there are so many things that are frustrating about it, and it's like I just want to enjoy the story. You know what I mean? And I want to talk about what's great about it. You know what I mean? And just seeing everyone so hung up on power scaling while amazing storytelling is happening in the background, it's annoying to me. You know what I mean?
Right. It is. I know it is. Yeah. I mean, it's really it's wild that there is this many people that do this kind of thing for this kind of story, right?
Yeah,
like it's just like, because obviously it's the biggest story that there is. It's the biggest manga that there is. So there's obviously the most people looking at it. But it's like it scales with it. Yeah. But yeah, it's like there was so many like, oh, Zoro took all the L's in this chapter.
It's like what are you even reading? The same chapter?
Were we even reading the same chapter? It's like, oh, he doesn't have Ryuo. It's like, okay, man, we don't need to get into it, but it's like I saw a lot of it too. And it's just like I try to just not get involved, but like it's
hard not to, dude.
It is.
Like, this is like One Piece is like really near and dear to me and all of us. You know what I mean?
Oh, right, for sure.
So when I feel people perverting it, it's like I'm gonna be like, you know what I mean? Anyway, but I'm very impressed by everyone's performance in this chapter, regardless of how power scalers feel about anything. Yeah. This double spread of the brilliant punk or whatever, or what is it?
Punk rotten.
Bro, this is everything.
It looks so cool.
This is everything.
It's wild. I mean, like Frankie should have joined his crew, right? Like it's like you got dual robots. You got fucking kaiju battle going on, right? Like
pow, Kong gun to the gut, boom, punk vice to the sides. You know what I'm saying? And then boom, tact, dropping all the rocks on him. And I saw a funny ass fucking meme where it's like, punk rotten, Kong gun, and then Law's like, I have a very large rock. And it's like, don't do that, bro. Come on, man. Don't do my mans like that.
Or like earlier, like, punk rotten, gear 4. The same ability I've used the entire story.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, and then I would have liked to see something new from Law here, but it doesn't have to be right here.
I mean, he's like, we don't has one of the best fruits in the entire story, canonically. So it's like, the base ability is really good.
I just love how Oda gave us that double spread with the protagonist coming towards us, then gave us another double spread from the opposite perspective to close the chapter off. And it's just like, it's like Oda's still. You know what I'm saying? Say what you want about his double spreads, his cluttered dialogue. Say what you want about his art. You know what I'm saying? Like this motherfucker.
I don't say any of that thing.
I know you don't. I know you don't. I'm talking to the audience now. You know what I'm saying? Like say what you want. You know what I mean? But when Oda decides to snap, when Oda can snap, look what he does, bro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's cold blooded, man, back to what everybody is doing here. Like we were saying, like Law. It might feel underwhelming, but his dialogue is not underwhelming. He said, I will deliver surgical death. And that's some other shit that you don't really think of with Kaido. He doesn't need to fucking get past his fucking physical defense. He will attack you internally. Yeah. He did it to Doflamingo. Like, he's got fucking radio knife.
Radio knife.
Yeah. Bro, it's like Law is perfect to have here, and everybody thought he was going to be support too. Like last week, I saw like, you know, actually even this week still, like with the scans, it's like, oh, Law's just support. He's just going to be shambles and people in and around. It's like,
no,
it's like, bro,
they're doing damage in unison.
It's not what's going to happen.
Now what?
It's not what's going to happen. Yeah. Yes, and it's like we don't really see now how Killer or Kid can really. Those two in particular deal damage to Kaido. Like you see kind of that. I mean, it's so weird. You can't really take much from the neck attack with Zoro and Killer together. I mean, that just doesn't really speak well of both of them that they did a tandem attack. But you can just totally chalk it up to the fact that if you don't have Ryuo, it's not getting through. And this still even kind of got through with brute force. Like you could give him that credit. It's like without Ryuo, that's the most you can hope for on Kaido. You put this big ass fucking, and he might have just flexed it out and came back. But like,
well, we still know that Zoro really has more at least. Even if Killer doesn't, we know that Zoro is saying, I need to bring out more of this sword. You know what I mean? So obviously you need to show a scene of him not being effective. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he's going to be very effective later because of that line of dialogue.
And this And do we think for a second that Killer and Kid are not going to be effective against Kaido?
Come on, man.
No, of course not. Of course not. Like, because that's the way Oda writes the shit. Like, that's the thing too. Like, you have this Killer talk about like, hey, now that I got my beheading blades or whatever the fuck he called them, it's like, hey, it would have went differently. That last fight.
And Zoro was like,
if
no,
I didn't have
no.
and he doesn't, and that's funny, but it's like Killer had a fucking smile fruit and had to laugh the whole time too. How about that? Like, that's a big fucking disadvantage, just being an idiot. Like, but like, regardless, Killer like has dialogue to give you, just it's promising to show you that, hey, he will be effective eventually here.
Yes.
Like, they all have to be effective some way or another against both people if it's truly going to be a 5v2.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe somehow you split this up.
I'm thinking we see a group hockey bloom here, similar, to call back to the initial raid of the Scabbards team unison hockey burst that they had, channeling the memories of Odin. I think that we clearly see that some characters are effective here, some aren't. I think that it's very much so going to tie back to that theme of unison to defeat the oppression. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I see a very intense hockey bloom coming on behalf of everyone that has shown that they cannot damage Kaido yet in this chapter. Yeah. So Luffy's here. He damaged him. Morale boost in the form of Luffy. Everyone comes in unison, willpower wise and like outlook wise. And I think that they're all just going to sync up, get a huge hockey bloom with Luffy at the head, and start doing damage to Kaido in the same way the Scabbards did when they first rushed him. That's how I see it happening.
Sure.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. With the fact that we need to draw more out of Enma, does it make sense that we move to pretty much exclusively Itoryu for this fight? Like, I mean, why are we even Santoryu to begin with, with Onigiri?
If the other two blades don't get through, just use one. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and it's like, you just run with some Shishi Sanson on Enma, and it's like, call it a day. Just cut his ass in half and let's get it over with, right? Like, because you probably could if we...
Right. Now, the reason why that makes sense is because that's usually Zoro's finisher is the Itoryu. You know what I mean? Like Santoryu was the finisher. To get through the
toughest defense,
yes,
right?
Yeah. So you got Santoryu finishers inside of the Buggy arc, inside of the earlier arcs where you really wanted to see what set Zoro apart from other swordsmen. He uses 3 swords, so Santoryu finishers there. But then
Ashura comes to mind. Maybe we'll see something like that. But...
Right. Yeah. Now I'm definitely feeling like we're going to see Ashura again at some point in this conflict. Just because you don't just use an attack like that one time and then never revisit it. I have no idea what he was talking about when he says we're never going to see Ashura again. Reread the story, buddy. Sorry, you're not here. You would argue if you were, but like that doesn't make sense.
I thought you were.
Never will.
You were doing the opening.
Yeah.
One Piece.
But what I'm saying though is that like, okay, so you want to, or Oda has been establishing this parallel between Zoro and Ryuma, right? Ryuma is a one-style sword user. So the damage, the real damage that we're waiting for Zoro to inflict on Kaido is probably going to come in the form of a one-style attack because you want that parallel with, Ryuma. But the reason why I think that it shouldn't be a one-sword style attack, even though the other 2 blades aren't effective, is because you want Zoro to not just be Ryuma again in the present time. You want him to be Zoro in this moment as well.
Right.
So he needs 3 swords. If he's going, like, this is going to be his biggest moment since the time skip, he should use 3 swords for it. Now, just because Enma is the one that forcefully draws his power out, doesn't mean that if he gets a team hockey bloom with everyone, he'll have Ryuo wherever he wants it. Yeah. Including Enma and his other 2 swords. So that makes more sense that he'll go back and do a 3-sword style despite Enma being the only effective weapon right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just another something on the other end of that is, Ryuma kills the dragon and monsters 1-sword style, right? Yeah. And that was, one of the biggest for Zoro killing Kaido things. But Zoro also kills the dragon on Punk Hazard with a 1-sword style.
Yeah.
So like it's
I
just
can see
like
it going either way. What I just said right now was clearly my preference and what I felt make the most sense. But either way would be totally fine.
Thematically, you're 100% correct, right?
Yeah,
like that, in theory, are supposed. I mean, it's supposed to be fucking 3,000 worlds, right? Like that's pretty much his main attack. Sansekai, right? And then he's got the new, upgraded one he used on Pika. So it's like,
I think that is the Dai.
To me,
Dai Sansekai.
Dai Sansekai.
But then he also has upgraded Shishi Sansan. Now he has Shishi Sansan that he used to cut the head off the previous dragon. So he's got a new move applicable in either style that he could use to hurt Kaido. You know what I mean? So.
I still, in my mind, I will always say Sanzen Sekai is his actual final attack to me over Shishi Sansan. Because he would have used Shishi Sansan against Mihawk, right? But he didn't use Sanzen Sekai. So
but see how it goes from 3,000 worlds. It was the first one. And then the next one was, I don't remember the number on it, but I think it's bigger. Or maybe there's just another word in front of 3,000. I don't remember. But if it is a bigger number, then that makes sense that his real final Santorio attack will be like infinite worlds, multiversal slash, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever, you know what I mean? So, so I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Triple infinite.
Triple infinite 3,000 worlds. Yeah. You guys have anything else for One Piece tonight?
What'd you say?
Wait, what'd you just say?
Oh, I said infinity plus 3.
Oh, I thought you said infinite thrust 3. I was like, bro, where are we going? But are you guys good on? Are you guys good on One Piece tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
If you got something else, throw it out. I'm not.
Not really. I mean, it's just like we didn't talk a ton about the last page. Just the fact that, like, all your manpower, treasure, and poneglyphs will be ours.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Oh, sure.
Just really cool. And
also,
like,
I think it's cool how. Before, I feel like inside of the punk attacks from Kid, all of the mech aspects of him collecting metal have all been connected for the most part, I feel like. This is the first time we're seeing levitating, floating limbs, according to his attack, which is really fucking cool. So
very cool.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, poneglyphs, they do have one road poneglyph, which is Big Mom's already, and they have the other one, I guess, from but I think Robin just knows this.
No,
I don't
Big
think
Mom
they actually
still has
took
her poneglyph.
No, but they took that paper graph thing of same. I assume that's what they did with the road poneglyph on Zoe. So they technically have really only one that the other two don't have, because they both have one each.
Yeah.
And the fourth one is where Marco knows. Marco is the one who knows where the fourth one is and has that information. So I mean, I guess technically the information for all the poneglyphs the road poneglyphs are on this island at the same time. That's, just kind of something to note, that like, even if they did win, they don't get Marco's poneglyph, If Straw Hat wins, if his crew wins, theoretically they get Kaido's,
right,
and then they get Marco's. So like, I mean,
they win. They're good. But
see,
then where is Blackbeard? Blackbeard's not just gonna let this collection happen for free.
Correct. Yeah. I mean,
you know what
Blackbeard,
I mean? So,
Blackbeard, who knows? Who knows how Blackbeard's going to end up on whatever, Raftel or whatever. I don't know, however this happens. But like, regardless, they theoretically are going to have all the poneglyphs after this battle. But we still have Elbath. That was the big thing that like, we got to do Elbath. Maybe that's where Blackbeard comes in. I don't know. Blackbeard's wiping out Tato Land right now, right? Like,
bro, Katakuri's fighting for his life right now, bro.
He's dead. He's out of here.
No, it's up to Brule.
Nothing is up to Brule.
The only
to run away in the mirror.
The last thing I wanted to say is that I'm kind of salty as a Zoro stan that he finally puts the bandana on for the first time in his arc and is not effective. That should be a moment to where you actually do some real shit. You know what I mean? You put the fucking band. You've had so many fights against Kamazo / Killer. You know what I'm saying? Who you clashed with fucking Kyoshiro / Denjiro. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you throw the bandana on here right now, and I understand why. But like, throw the bandana on when you actually draw some blood, G. Come on, man. I'm a Zoro stan here. Cater to me. No, I'm kidding. But
yeah.
I was like, damn. But anyway,
talking about Killer too, like it just reminded me, like this chapter, just seeing Hitokiri there, that it is going to be somewhat of a callback to Kenshin, right? Like, I mean, and Oda's time on Kenshin. I don't know why, like that's kind of just dawning on me.
I didn't even notice that until you just said it right now. I was like, oh shit.
Yes. Yeah. Hitokiri Batosai.
Yes. All right. Well, that's it, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
What a discussion.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
good stuff.
Wow. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Project Manga Podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did, make sure you slap a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the subscription button if you're new here. And make sure you hit the notification bell if you haven't already, so we can chirp you when the new content is live. Okay? Also, make sure you visit our description section so you can see where you can find us on our individual social media accounts. Other online communities you can find us in, like our Discord, which is very cracking and growing every day. Please join it if you haven't already. And down there, you'll also find ways to consume the Project Manga Podcast on audio-only platforms, wherever you normally get your podcasts, and as well as ways to support what we do here inside of our online store and Patreon, which, by the way, will give you early access to this content, as well as an additional weekly Shonen Jump related review show, where we cover everything else we don't cover on this show. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Project Manga Podcast. Wrapping up, I'm your host, Knox.
Peace, y'all. It's Kiko.
And Nickums.
We'll catch y'all next time.